we actually ended up with 2,400 miles. And part of 18, was closed. They were working on a railroad crossing down there, and I can't remember how many miles of, nearly 500 miles of gravel roads going around that. And so it's been really a great experience. And when we do this assessment, and Kelly alluded to this, there's a little pre-assessment before we even left home. And by the way, we are both from the Seattle area originally. We now have lived in Arizona for about 8 years. And when we're there, we looked at marketing effectiveness. Could we find information about you? And I have to tell you that in doing all that work, we never once found the rendezvous region because we didn't know what you called your tourism. See what I mean? And so these are things that we're here to help fix. It's nobody did anything wrong, but could we find information? And was it good enough to close the sale? And how do you stack up to the competitors, like Devil's Lake area or over in Minnesota? But what I'm going to really concentrate today is on the on-site assessment. What was our first impressions? And you're going to see it. We photographed our first impressions of your towns. Homes, neighborhoods, commercial areas, your merchants, schools, health facilities, you name it. Local parks, recreational facilities, things to do in the area. We looked at all of this stuff. Now, and the reason we're going to concentrate on product is because marketing will only bring people here once. All the marketing you do from the state tourism office or state economic development or whatever, they're going to bring people here once, and that's it. The only thing that brings them back are these things. The primary draw, whether I'm here for harvest, whether, and then there's the complementary activities, your amazing, and I'm going to explain all this in a few minutes. And so that's what brings us back. And it's always cheaper to bring people back than it is to get new customers. After a while, you run out. They've all been here and done it. And so that's really important. And when we're doing this, it's not just about tourism. The first thing we do is we look at a place to live, work, or retire. And I do a lot of demographic studies with millennials, Gen Xers, the boomers, the greatest generation, you name it. And so this is not just looking through our eyes as boomers. This is looking through the people who are in their 30s or late 20s or even early 40s that you're hoping to attract. And then we do this. We look as a place to work, invest in, or bring a business. And then finally, as a leisure visitor, but for more than just a day trip. So in North Dakota, I did some work up in Williston. I've spoken in Minot. And of course, Madera is a place that we use as a case history. A town of 50 people around the United States have heard of them. And of course, Dickinson and Bismarck and Fargo and there's our region up there. And of course, I've been in Grand Forks before coming on this trip. But I had never been in your part, never been up here. I didn't know what to expect. And of course, in this assessment, these are the communities we did. And of course, we've been staying in Grafton because it was the most centrally located. We could go south, north, east, west. And so this is what we did. And the reason we have two up here is we did Walhalla, but then we also did Frostfire and Pembina Gorge up there. And when we were doing our pre-assessment, of course, I thought for sure it was Pembina. And then it got corrected, and so now I think I finally got it down to Pembina. And so our assignment for this whole thing, and we've already been alluded to this, is that what else could be done locally to make you a better, stronger place to live, work, and play? And there's going to be a lot of things where I'm telling it like we saw it, really honest with you, no holds barred. And that doesn't mean we're throwing anybody under the bus at all, because what we're doing is we're looking, what else could you do? So we've never been here before. So we don't know what you've done in the past, so there's nobody did anything wrong. It's just what else could you do? So I want you to remember that as we go through this. I also want you to look at the photography, because we were North Dakota has a big problem. Number one, you fly under the radar. Number two, people go, oh, North Dakota, I would never live there. And I go, why? I mean, Iowa doesn't have anything over North Dakota, or Missouri, or most of Illinois, or most of the Midwest, Kansas, all of those. And yet there's some cloud over you. And I'm going to get into that. But we were blown away. But our goals are, how do you increase the population? In 2000, I think it was 18 or 19, pre-COVID, I came and was the keynote speaker at the Governor's Main Street Conference, which was the second largest Main Street conference in the United States, in North Dakota. And after that keynote, this guy comes up to me with a couple other people and says, you know, Roger, I think you're my new best friend, and I've put Main Street as my #1 priority. And the guy next to him said, by the way, this is Doug Burgum, our governor. And so he put Main Street as his top priority to attract people. And he told me there were like 60,000 jobs, of which a huge majority of those paid like $100,000 a year. And of course I said, sign me up. But he just wanted to make Main Street that. But what I learned in these 42 counties is probably 30 of them, Main Street isn't the problem. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these towns don't really have a Main Street. If you have 200 people in your town, having a Main Street that's going to be full of businesses and full of life is really not going to happen. We're in the Amazon age. And so we had to take a little different tack. But how do we increase the population? How do we increase local investment? How do we find ways for local businesses to be more successful? And I'm going to concentrate a lot on that one, including entrepreneurial activities. So, with that being said, we looked at your population 2010, there it is in 2021, and according to Esri, there's what it's going to be in another 5 years from now. And so that's not very good. And by the way, all 4 counties are losing population except for the Grand Forks area. And so that is something in North Dakota you got to fix. You got jobs, you got industry, you got agriculture, you got fossil fuels, you've got all this stuff, but yet people are leaving. And so you go, how do you fix that? And the way to fix it, it means change. And change is never easy. In fact, it's hard. One problem we've even run into in our time here, and by the way, I'm here with my wife, Jane. She introduced herself a little earlier. And you can't secret shop an area as a guy. You have to have a woman there because women account for most of the spending. Okay, I'm waiting. Yeah, okay. We'll talk about that. And then she sees things different than I do. So it's been a really good balance. But when we talk about change, one thing we've run into is the North Dakota Good Old Boys Network. What is the youth organization you said you were with? Youth Leadership Group? I just about went, yes! Because that's your future. There's your future right there. And that's who you have to be ready for. And that means change. And you know what? I got to tell you this right now, that the millennial generation is the most civically active generation in U.S. history. There are more mayors under the age of 35 today in the United States than ever before in U.S. history. I came from the boomers. We were down with the establishment, right, in the late 60s and early 70s, and then somehow we became the establishment and really screwed it up. And so, but the millennial generation, they are civically active, but you need to give them a seat at the table because they're your future. You know, I'm just going to digress here for a second. We're working in a town called Erwin, Tennessee. And they were losing their population. The population there was about 6,000, so maybe 5,000, about the size of Grafton, a little bit bigger. And the mayor went to a 10-year high school reunion, and there was like 60 in their graduating class. Went to a 10-year high school reunion, and there was like 40 of that original 60 were there. And he asked them where they lived. And 75% of them lived away from Erwin, Tennessee. And he asked them what it would take to bring them back. And jobs was not number one. It was all quality of life issues. But then he went to a high school graduating class of like 60 or 65 and went to them before they graduated and said, after you graduate and go to college, how many of you are going to come back? Half the hands went up, half. And he says, why? The half of you that aren't going to come back, why? And they read off a litany of things. So the mayor did this. He created a young professionals group, just like what you have. And then he said, you're in charge. You bring things to the city. If we can afford it and it's legal, we'll do it. And they did. They changed the entire town. They had farmers markets every week. They had live music. Heck, they even painted the streets. I mean, they did all kinds of stuff, and it totally changed the town for the better. And now their population is growing like 200 or 300 people a year, and they're trying to control the growth. But that's what they had to do. So change is never easy. It's hard. But you have to be willing to change. And so without change, communities die. I mean, if I go back to that, I mean, this was in Neche. Am I pronouncing that? Is it Neche? 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 I'm still not getting it. Oh, like niche. Okay, niche. Okay, so I don't pronounce that E on the end. Yeah, no, I've had to learn Pizik, and okay, now it's niche. Okay. Niche? Like itchy. Okay, there we go. Now I'm getting there, see? It's called getting educated. But like what you see here, and they're not the only ones that are dealing with this. This is happening across the country. And so this is a real serious problem. Without change, communities die. And if you're willing to embrace change, this can work. The plan that we're putting together is about making something happen. I'm not going to give you anything today that's expensive to do to get more people to live here, to come and visit you. And so if not, but there may be some towns that say, Roger, you know what, thanks, you went and secret shopped your town, but we're fine the way it is. We don't want your help. And if that's the case, let us know at the Red River Regional Council, and we'll say, great, we'll just concentrate on those other communities that are willing to accept change and are willing to do something for their future. And with that, I want to talk about the setup for this. And I want to give you 7 key facts that are driving all of this right now. And number 1 is quality of life. For the first time in U.S. history, jobs are going where the talent is or where the talent wants to be. It never was like that before. Before that, it was wherever the jobs were, we moved there. But now people are going, I will live there. If the quality of life is good, I'm going to move there, and then I will find a way to make a living. And that has changed everything. This started about 7 or 8 years ago, and it's changing the face of America. And in the old days, they said rural America is dying. Well, guess what? Rural is coming back because it's got a higher quality of life than the urban areas. And so if workers move there, then the talent's going to come. Our son used to work for Amazon. And Amazon, when they were doing their search for the second world headquarters, they were looking, where does the talent want to be? That's what they were looking for. They weren't looking, and of course they were looking for tax breaks like everybody, but they were looking for where does our talent want to be? Where will our talent be happy? And that's what they did. And that's what companies are doing. And it's really important. So for the first time in U.S. history, community development is leading economic development and tourism development. And then we're in the age of placemaking. That's creating a community living room. This is about your downtowns, about your community centers. And so quality of life is leading economic development. I mean, flat out. And here's something that's really important. Every single elected official in this country, from the president to your governor to school boards to city councils and mayors, their entire focus should be to improve the quality of life for their citizens. And that is what's leading economic development. That's why the governor said a few years ago that Main Street was going to be his number 1. It was all about quality of life. And so your mission should be for any one of your towns to be the most desirable place to live in North Dakota, the region, or in Pembina County. So that's number one. Number two is tourism is the front door to your non-tourism efforts. So you may say, we don't want anything to do with tourism. Well, any of these people you see showing up on the screen, when they come to your town, they're coming first as what? A visitor. Is this a place our client would want to live? We would want to live. Our employees would want to live. I mean, tourism is the front door. And that's really, really important. And by the way, nothing sells quality of life better than tourism. Because it's about the trails, it's about the recreation, it's about your local parks, sports, all of those things. So that's number two. Number three for this is the benefit of tourism is they come, they spend money and go home. And we're not suggesting that any of your towns be the next Disney World. That's not what this is about. But if we want people to go from Grand Forks to Pembina Gorge, can we get them to stop in Cavalier for lunch on their way and then on their way back stop for dinner? That's tourism spending. And that's what we're trying to do. And by the way, the number one activity of visitors in the world, not the reason they come, but the number one activity once they arrive is shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly setting. And so they want a place where they feel comfortable, that's not full of cars, that's pedestrian friendly. And then, by the way, 80% of the non-lodging spending is doing that. You know what? If I lived in Grand Forks and I wanted to go to Pembina Gorge, I could pack up a lunch there, drive all the way to Pembina Gorge, spend the whole day there, and drive all the way back and not spend a dime in your county. That's not what we want. So you got to monetize it. And so that's what we're trying to do. Visitors want local flavor. You know, wherever it is. And I got to tell you, when we were out there secret shopping, we had a hard time finding places that were even open. And that was a real problem. And so, you know, you must be able to monetize your tourism efforts. Now, I'll give you a perfect example. We went here. Great little museum, nice people there. We didn't go up into the tower, but we did go in there. And then after we went through the museum, we came out to the front desk in the museum and said, where's a good place to eat lunch? And they looked at each other. One of them grimaced. And they said, well, the golf course in Pembina might be open. We're not too sure. But probably your best bet for lunch is right there. A gas station. I mean, we were shocked. And by the way, actually, the pizza and stuff they had in there was actually pretty good. But we were shocked that I go, really? Really? You're right on 29. You're right here. And that's it? And so that's a challenge. If you can't monetize it, what's the benefit of tourism? And so that was like, okay, here we go. And then here, another primary fact for tourism, it's the fastest, easiest way to get people to move to you, to get people to say, I want to live here. And that is really important. And number 5 is marketing versus product. And this goes back to what I said. Marketing will bring people to you just once. It's product that brings them back. And when we talk about product, I want to dive into that. What is the primary attraction? And the primary attraction might be just visiting friends and family. Or it might be, I'm here for harvest. Or it might be, I'm going to go ATV the Pembina Gorge. Or I'm going to Frostfire for skiing. But then, what are your supporting amenities? Supporting amenities would include lodging. Where are we going to stay? And where do we eat? And do you even have things like public restrooms or visitor information? Do you have those things? And then there's the overall ambience. What was our impression when we came in town? And you're going to see that in just a minute. And then the people that we interact with. That, if you can do that, we'll come back. And so, number 6, I got one more after this. Locals first. If you don't spend time in your community or your downtown, neither will visitors. They go where you go. So remember that. This is about you first, and then visitors want to go where you go. And then finally, the last one of these, and this, by the way, is the most important of all of these. And let me talk about this for a second. This was done by Forbes, Money Magazine, Niche.com, Livability.com, and like 10 different organizations, including, I think, Michigan State University. All these organizations did research, and they asked people in their late 20s, from mid-20s through their 30s and early 40s. So basically people in their 30s. And they said, what are your priorities when you're looking for a place to live? And these are in order of what they said was the most important. And number one on their list was safety, particularly for kids. Now, what you have to understand is us boomers, we're having kids in our early 20s. The millennials and Gen Xers are having their kids in their late 30s and early 40s. Fathers are spending twice as much time with their kids as we did in our generation. And so these younger generations, they're a little later. They're better parents because they're having kids a little later in life. But that is their number one priority. That's good news for the rural areas. We want to be able to say, be home by dinner. But in the urban areas, what do we say? Don't get out of my sight, right? And so that's what they're looking for, safety, particularly for kids. And I think you've got that. We couldn't find any place in these 4 counties we didn't feel safe. There was a few towns that were pretty much falling down that was like, not so sure, but it wasn't scary. Number 2, they want a good educational system and childcare. So that's number 2 on their list. And by the way, they will go on the web and they will type in best schools in Northeast North Dakota. I'm going down here now. Oh, there's Niche.com. Oh, there's Grand Forks, Fargo, Horace, the Odyssey, West Fargo, Jamestown, Bismarck, Valley City, Minot, Lincoln. We keep going down. Devil's Lake. Oh, there's Devil's Lake. We're getting closer. Dickinson. And then we finally get down in here and we're getting to, there's Grafton down there. Grafton got a B. So that's good. But this is what they're doing. They're on the web looking at these things. You need to show up. And so that's really important how they do this. Now, number 3 is they want to be part of a community. They don't want to be sidelined. They want to be active. They want to be participants. And they want an engaged community. So if you're going to get young people, they don't want to move into a good old boys network or move into a neighborhood where they're going to feel ostracized. They want to feel like, hey, welcome, come on in. You know, and that's diversive. They want diversity, the welcoming, accepting, open to new ideas. And if you are, they're going to come. So, will you embrace someone starting a local business in your town? And that's what they want to know. And this is all about community pride. And when we got here, the very first town we went in was St. Thomas, because it was just straight north of Grafton. We came to St. Thomas. But I'm showing these for community pride because when we came into St. Thomas, this is just one example, you're going to see more. We saw the pumpkins outside. They had potted plants at this house. And we looked at other homes. We thought that was really nice. And you could tell there was community pride there. The homes were well maintained. The yards were well maintained. They had their fall decorations out. I mean, everywhere we went. So in St. Thomas, we said, now this is a community that looks like it has a high quality life. What you have to understand is we will judge your community by your neighborhoods. So we're going to drive around your houses and we're going to judge whether you're a good place to live by what we see. And by the way, if I ever show one of your houses, you can go, yes. Unless I'm not showing it in a good light, then just don't say anything. So, but look at that. Even that's really pretty, back to the picnic shelter. I mean, you could just feel that there was some community pride in St. Thomas. And you're going to see other ones. Even this sign, welcome to Hager, is it Hager? Hager Park, and it's just a beautiful sign, nice playgrounds, and even when you leave, it says, thank you for visiting. It's like, how great is this? And that's what you have to understand. The next thing that people are looking for is positive change. They want to actually see things happening. There's many of these 42 towns or 41 towns we were in, where we didn't see any change. It didn't look like anything's changed in 50 years. And we're looking for places that like there's change happening. So just seeing this, and I'm sure this is somebody's house, but we're saying there's things going on there. It's changing for the better. And so that's really important. But then when we see blown out signs like this, we go, well, maybe not so fast. I mean, you have to understand that you need to have abatement ordinances. When we see signs like that, we're going to go, not too sure about this place. It may be mean, but that's the way we as human beings work. We judge the book by the cover because we don't know. We're not from here. So these are things you have to fix. I'd be talking to this owner and say, let's take the sign down or let's fix it. Now, maybe it just happened last week and they have it on order. I don't know. But as a first-time visitor, that's how we judge you. We will come into your downtowns, and when we see stuff like this in Cavalier, we just go, how cool is this? They're putting pumpkins out. We were in town, and I saw people walking around putting antlers on different things around town. And I just went, now here's a town that cares. This is how we judge you. We do the same thing with retail. We just look at these. We just go, wow, that's really pretty what they did there. And all the plants are for sale. But you know what? It made it look welcoming. It made it look like they care. And that's so important. And then number 5 is life after 6 o'clock. Besides Netflix. And so this is going to be really important. And we're not talking about the bar scene. The millennials don't want the bar scene. They just want life after 6. Whether it's in public parks, whether it is just activities. And so that's really important. You know, and number 7, did I do, that was 5. Here's number 6. Or top-notch recreation, surpassing other areas. Remember, this is a North Dakota problem. Is North Dakota has 2.9% of your land is public. The next lowest state is like 20%. You have hardly any public lands. I mean, we had a hard time finding trails anywhere. We did find a few. But your recreation is really hard to come by. And you have to remember, these people, there's 49 other states too. And so they do want top-notch recreation. The good news for you in this county, you've got it in spades. I mean, once you get off of 29 and you start heading west, it gets better and better. I think we've only been to a few state parks, but we were here. We also did Turtle River down the road and everything. And this is a world-class state park. And I mean, it really is. This is a phenomenal state park. So. But not only do you have this, I mean, even the museum across the street is fantastic. By the way, these are the only 2 museums we could find open in all 4 counties. But then you've got the Gorge, you've got Frostfire, you've got so much recreation here that you can do this. You can do this. I mean, that's over at Frostfire. I think that's just a cool photo. And by the way, when you look at these photos, they need to be on your website. These photos need to be up there. You need to be promoting this stuff. I mean, look at that. I mean, we just happened to get here in September. It happened to be fall color. I never in a million years thought there was fall color in North Dakota. I always thought you had to go to the Appalachians. But see what I mean? North Dakota has one of the poorest tourism budgets in the country. And then even the Rendezvous region has like $50,000 or $60,000 a year and no full-time help. I mean, the only time the rest of the country hears about North Dakota is when something bad happens. 27 disasters in 27 years. You know what I mean? And so that's a real problem. You need to start getting photographs. By Gorge, Pembina's got it. I mean, these are articles, that was written from Walhalla, in the forum. And so these are things that are really important. You got to get these photos out there. Quality of life, particularly for kids, is number 7. And that means clean air, good water, healthcare, farmers markets, local produce and goods, family services. We were in the town of Neche, And they have a big community garden that's like twice the size of this building. Excuse me, and it's phenomenal. You can grow your own or you can do the shared gardening. Those are the things they're looking for. Number 8 is we want walking and biking trails, pathways, good school transportation, those types of things. The trail systems, like this one. We did see lots of trails around here. There's no signs on them. You need to fix that. Because we don't know. I don't know where that goes, how long it is, or anything. And I think I took this over by the golf course, across from the park. And so, housing, we want availability, affordability, and quality. I got to tell you, every time we went in, we'd pull up Realtor.com or Zillow and look for houses, and there was hardly anything anywhere. And so that's going to be an issue you have to tackle. And I've got some ideas for that. But that's what we're looking for. And then, starter homes, move-ups, nice neighborhoods for people that are downsizing. We're looking for a mix, but it needs to be quality. And that's really important. And then including commercial buildings. We even seen places where you said, why don't we turn some of these commercial buildings into residential or live workspace? And that's where zoning changes and stuff have to come around. And then number 10 is jobs. That never happened before. Number 10, that was last on their list, was jobs. So if we can find a job or an opportunity, we'll move there if those other 9 are there. Does this make sense? I mean, this is the way people are now. And so, here is our experience, and I'm going to talk about myth busting, then I'm going to talk about quality of life and tapping into tourism and commerce, your downtowns. And now we're going to dig into all of your communities. And I want to start with myth busting. And that is North Dakota, particularly eastern North Dakota, what people generally think of you is there are no trees. It's barren, it's flat, it's desolate. I mean, it's a frozen tundra. It's boring. There's nothing there. I mean, we started doing all the research. What are these perceptions of North Dakota, particularly eastern North Dakota when you're away from the national park in the western side? It's a similar problem they have down south of you in South Dakota. South Dakota promotes the Great 8 for their tourism. 7 of the 8 are in western South Dakota. And so for you, I said, okay, if this is the perception, how do we change it? Because when we got here, we went, whoa. And I can tell you, just before today, I was talking to Kelly. We're both she's from Arizona, and that's where we live. And I asked her, when she left there, she was in Lake Havasu, which, by the way, is a huge tourist attraction. That's where London Bridge is, and they moved it or brick by brick and rebuilt it, and it's a beautiful area. But and I asked her, so I hope you don't mind me sharing this. I said, when you came here, did it meet your expectations? And she said exactly what we said. It blew away our expectations. It blew it away. We had no clue. Of course, they've told you haven't seen a real severe winter yet. And that is a problem in North Dakota that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But when you talk about this, I really want you to go on your websites, your city websites. People, when they're looking to move here, are going to look at your city websites more than they're going to look at tourism websites. If your website looks really dated, they're going to go, yeah, I think I want a more progressive, more modern community. But your website should be loaded with these photos. We're going to give you all these, although I think there should be people there should be a couple people biking across this bridge in Bathgate. But if you just load your websites with photography, and I always say a photo for every 50 words on your website, then people will have a different perception of you without saying a word. The old saying, photos are worth 1,000 words, is absolutely true. So you look at these towns. I mean, here's Crystal. I mean, look at every town we went in. We couldn't find a town that was barren. I mean, look at that. Look at Drayton. I mean, look at the fall color. I mean, it was like, wow. I mean, everywhere we went, even in Hamilton, by the fairgrounds there. The sign needs some work, but you see all the trees. But I mean, here's Hensel. I mean, everywhere we went, There was no shortage of trees, no shortage of landscaping. I mean, it was, there's the town of Mountain. We love Mountain. And Neche. Am I finally getting it there? Whew. Okay, and then, so you could just see, look at it. I mean, if you didn't live here and you saw these photos and I didn't say where they're from, most people I would show these to would say, where's that taken? They'd probably name every other state before they said Nevada. I mean, before they would say Nevada or North Dakota. So, I mean, look at it. I mean, it's just stunning. You know, it's just, and we just happened to get here. Luckily, you know, as a matter of fact, I got to tell you, we've been here for these 3 weeks. There were 3 or 4 days when it was warmer here than it was back home in Phoenix. And people think, no, that's North Dakota. They think it's 32 degrees below zero 8 months of the year. And they don't have a clue. But if you just showed pictures like this, all of a sudden you're going to dispel these myths. And this is, I just shown you one from every single town that we were in. You need to load your websites with these. Even people's houses with their permission. You know, because look at the landscaping. I mean, it's just really pretty. By the way, in this presentation, you're going to see a bunch of those. Those are suggestions. There's no recommendations in this. Remember, we came here and secret shopped you. It would be presumptuous to come here and tell you, this is what you should do when we never talk to you first. So all we can do is provide suggestions to you, and then you may go back home and say, let's implement some of those if you think they're worth implementing. You know, so you see these. But that's one of our first suggestions, is you need to load your website with photography. Show homes with permission, including the winter months, if they have holiday decorations up. I mean, look at that, it's beautiful. You know, I mean, it's just showcase your assets. But I would show, rather than buildings, I would show the interior of your library. And what you do as cities, you know what you do on all your websites? You put a picture of your gateway sign. And like, really? You want us to judge your whole community by a picture of a sign that says, welcome to Cavalier or whatever. And that's what you have to change. But even doing this, these are great assets that you have. I mean, look at, always include people. So if you had people walking down this trail in Cavalier, and I don't know where this goes, how long it is, but we found it, and it does need some signs along it. We'll get into all of that. But once again, we just went, this would be great. So if you had these very same photos, but with people in them, the reason you need people in them is we identify with people more than places. So if we see a family biking down that or a couple walking down, even just walking away from you, it just says, wow, that looks nice. I wish I was there. We always put ourselves in the shoes of people we see in photos. And by the way, there's our photographer right there, right? You do a lot of photography. So you have the talent here. We're doing this out there every day, and we don't, you know, so we're not seeing all the people out there. But you get the idea of how important this is. Show a family having a picnic here in Cavalier. I mean, these are the things you need to do. And by the way, I've been showing Cavalier, this is the one thing about Cavalier's website. It was one of the most modern ones that we found in all 4 counties. And it had the big photo right there of the theater. And I love Create the Life You Love in Cavalier. I thought that was really great. And so, you know, that's what everybody needs to do. You know, Rendezvous, and then once you get these the photographs, you need to get them to Rendezvous Region so they can put them in their tourism, and we need to get them to the state tourism website. Sarah Ott Coleman, that is their state tourism director, is a friend of mine, and they're hungry for stuff that better promotes this area. By the way, when people are looking for a place to live, I did Pembina. This is how we judge you. We're going to look down this. We're going to look down this. Let's see. What does it say there? Oh, that says Kansas City. Here we go. Okay, let's see. We're going down here. I'm not seeing a whole lot that sells me on Pembina. I mean, I do see the museum right there. I can see that. So we got that. But I'm not seeing a whole lot that's going to close the sale. When you start populating your website with photographs like I've been showing you, Google's going to pick them up and they're going to show up there. Because right now, I'm not seeing a whole lot that's really closing the sale for me in Pembina. Now there you go, a cultural crossroads in North Dakota's Pembina Gorge. That was in Midwest Living magazine. See, so when we find those, we're going to go, whoa, where's Pembina Gorge? And they might end up in Walhalla or here in Cavalier, somewhere. And so this whole myth busting, there are no trees, false. And all we did is show pictures. You know, it's bare and it's flat, it's desolate. We didn't find any place. You know what happens is people come up 29, and what they see on 29 is they figure the entire region looks exactly like that. They don't realize if you go 20 miles in west, all of a sudden the terrain changes, everything changes. But what they do is they might be, you know, Winnipeg to Fargo or Grand Forks, and they're judging you based on the agriculture they see. And that's why you need to show photographs like this. If somebody was fishing right there or whatever, even showing golfers right here. I mean, when we saw this, as a matter of fact, we saw the country club. We looked across the country club, and that's how we saw Icelandic State Park. And we went, whoa. Those two things right there, we just went, wow, that looks amazing. I mean, if I showed this to people around the country, they would not believe it was even North Dakota. That is the power of this. I mean, we didn't find hardly any place that was that flat outside of the 29 corridor. I mean, we have all kinds of terrain changes, all kinds of waterways, and you need to promote things within a 45-minute drive of you. Those are day trips. That makes you the place where we spend the time. But everywhere we went, I mean, it's gorgeous. I just think these myths are just totally false. I mean, I'm just like, we're just blown away, literally blown away. And remember, we've been in every state. Up until COVID, I traveled 250 days a year. And so we live on the road, and this just shocked me. I mean, it positively shocked me. And by the way, we got 2.5 inches of rain the day before yesterday. And I'm hoping that river's coming up now because they need that to make snow over there. So, but everywhere we went, we were just like, wow. You know what? I'll never forget going to Wausau, Wisconsin, and they said, we have a big ski area. We have runs that are 700 feet long. I'm from out west. I went, really? Really? You know, but what you have one of the better ski areas in all of the Midwest. I mean, it needs some work, and they've been investing in it, but look at the potential. Look at what you have here. I just thought, it's not true. When it comes to the frozen tundra, I think you should embrace winter instead of hide from it. I'll tell you two things that drive me crazy about North Dakotans. I'll never forget, I was in Grafton. Where's Dawn? Oh, there she is, way back there. Okay, I was with Dawn, and we were at the Grafton Economic Development. And I said, we've been here for several weeks. The weather has been incredible. It's been amazing. And the guy said, yeah, but you don't know the half of it. We can't even go out of our houses for 7 months of the year. I'm going, what the? And Dawn she probably said, what the hell? I mean, what? She didn't say those words, but it was like, really? I mean, I can't believe it. You know, it's like every time I say, it has been gorgeous here. We love it here. It's beautiful. You have great fall color. And they go, well, you haven't been here in January. I mean, what is it with you people? You know, because us that live in Arizona, they say, whoa, 8 months of the year, the weather is you know what I say? I always say, for 8 months of the year, we live in the valley of the sun, and it is fabulous. The other 4 months, we live on the surface of the sun. But in Arizona, they say, wow, I love the weather down here. We never say, well, you haven't been here in July. You know what we say? Well, it gets hot in July, but it's a dry heat. Right? We turn lemons into lemonade, and you guys just defecate yourself to pieces. I mean, it's like, what is with you? You guys have this cloud over you that you just want to tell the world that it's awful. You know, and by the way, I don't think your winters are any worse than over in Green Bay or anywhere else where they get lake effect snow, or Iowa in the middle of the winter. They get the wind, they get the minus 40s. I mean, why is it that North Dakota, I don't hear people in Minnesota going, well, you haven't been here in January. I hear them complaining about mosquitoes, but I just don't know why you do that. And it's everybody I talk to. They just go, well, you haven't been here in the winter. I'm going, yeah. And so, you know, you've got to get over that. As far as it being boring and everything, I mean, look, you have these golf courses everywhere, beautiful country clubs. I mean, just look at this. This is incredible. You know, these should be included. There it is. There's your suggestion for your walking paths. I have a feeling, do these go from all the way down out here to Icelandic or to the, see? And I think, wow. And wouldn't it be cool if you could rent bikes in town, Cavalier? I know you can rent them at Icelandic. You can? Okay. Well, we're going to talk about that. But those are the kinds of things that you need to promote for just your town, quality of life. You know, show all the activities. And by the way, I'd love to see pictures of people stand-up paddleboarding. That's what SUP is, if you're not familiar with that. Kayaking, canoeing, boating, fishing, camping. I mean, even this right here, here's your chance to try your hand at stand-up paddleboarding. If we hadn't been working, and if we could have found somebody working here at the park to unlock these, I would have done it. I have a stand-up paddleboard I ordered. It's waiting for me at home. Never tried it before. But here, I can come to Icelandic State Park, and I could rent a kayak, a canoe, or a stand-up paddleboard and try it on a pristine lake in a great area. I mean, these are the things you need to promote, you know, and I mean, even and you need to promote like our top 3 trails or top 5. By the way, people always use the web. They don't type in your location first. They don't go North Dakota best trails. They will say top hiking trails in northeastern North Dakota. Or if they know the rendezvous region, top 3 hiking trails or biking trails, snowmobiling trails, whatever it is, they're always looking for the best. So you need to promote your top 5 trails in Pembina County. And then you know what you can do? Is if you like those, go to our website. We've got 5 more for you. And they could be walking trails. They could be ADA accessible trails. And it was really hard for us to get any photos like this. You know, you could bike Icelandic State Park, or from Icelandic State Park into Cavalier, have lunch, and bike back out. You know, and how long would that bike ride take? An hour each way? Half an hour? No. Something like that, too long?
5.5 miles.
Oh, it's 5.5 miles? See, didn't even know that. But those are things where we need the signs and everything, so that wouldn't be bad at all. You know, and I just think they're incredible. I mean, this is the Pioneer Heritage Center right here. These are things that are just amazing that you have. You can tell people, walk the village right here. You know, and I'm going to go more into these in a little bit. But even the museum across the street is phenomenal. And so when we went over there, and by the way, if I go back to these, one thing that happened, we were here, and we wanted to so bad to go into that church. All these buildings are locked up. Because then we went across the street. And when we went across the street, the lady there said, oh, you should have asked for a key. You could have gone in these buildings. Nobody let us know. We didn't know that if you asked for a key, you could get one. So these are little things. You're going to hear a lot of little suggestions like that. Because we wanted to go in that church, but we never could. So now we know we can ask for a key, and they'll let us do that, which I think is really cool. But over here, this was an amazing experience. Look at that. Pembina County feeds the world. These are things you need to put out there. But I'll tell you, I could have spent a couple of days across the street looking at all this stuff. I mean, the cars, the amazing. I mean, even this vehicle, I think that's the one right there. That's one of the only ones in the world. That's one case tried to make cars. Or, well, they did make cars, but there's hardly any of them left. I mean, just the stories alone were phenomenal. You know, it's a great car collection. I mean, I was just blown away. And by the way, all the buildings were open over there. And so it was just phenomenal. And so these are things, it's not boring here. You know, I think you have so much to offer and so much to do here. I mean, that's in Mountain, oldest Icelandic church in America. I think that's really cool. It's cool stuff you have. Even here at this museum was great. We did not pay the $2 to go up in the tower because we could see the border from the ground. But it was still a good museum, and we had a great time there. You know, they did a great job telling the story about the fur trade and how the whole area was founded. And it has a really great gift shop. Sorry the photo's out of focus, but this is what I mean by showing interiors. I mean, this is all pretty much regionally made things. It's not made in China junk. It's cool. And these are things that have to be promoted, you know, for $2 right up the tower. We even went up here to the, was it Demolen? Is that how you pronounce it? The church, this is right by the border, where there used to be a church there, back where you see the big cross and where people were buried there. Our challenge with that was, we drove up to the border, there was no turnaround. Because, you know, by the way, it's going to open up in about 2 weeks, so beginning of November. But we had to go up there and go to the customs, you know, through immigration. And I said, we were just looking at a church there. I'm just trying to get back down to Pembina. And there is no way to do that. You're going through or not. And so he says, well, one of our workers just left and he's in that hot Mustang. You know, he's vroom, 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 you know. So we just he said, just follow him out and around. But those are little things that if you get people there, you got to figure out a way for them to get back before they're in a different country. And so, you know, look at the great, I mean, everywhere we went, we saw turkeys. And I don't know if you allow hunting or whatever, but I kept going, wow, the bird hunting here must be good. I mean, you know, I kept thinking that there'd be really some cool things to do. I mean, the fall color blew us away right here at the state park. I don't think anybody would know about this stuff. You know, I mean, this is at Pembina Gorge, you know, the horseback hiking, wildlife viewing, you know, but it's not really being, Rendezvous Region has a pretty good website and it lists these things, but there's no details. There's no real details. Even this is an amazing, this is a really great story. What they talk about, how old that cabin is, or the store, general store is, but the trading post. And even this house, we saw pictures of what that was like before they restored it. It was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe they could even restore it. So even that was a great story. And so, okay, there you go. There's a piece of flat ground. See, I finally showed you one. But overall, we wouldn't even have found this if it hadn't been for that one sign. We would have never found it back there. But it was amazing. And the other thing is, we've worked all over the country. I have never seen such incredible ice fishing trailers like these, you know, that lower themselves down on the ice. I mean, that must be, I mean, these people around here are serious about that, am I right? I mean, these are amazing. You know, I'm just going, wow, that's pretty darn cool. Here's it, but Frostfire. We thought Frostfire, I got to tell you that I started my career in the concert industry. I had to do tour management for bands like, this is going to date me, Earth, Wind and Fire, Chicago. I did Fleetwood Mac's Tusk tour. And so I was working in the concert industry, and I thought Fleetwood Mac got me out of the concert industry. I thought they were going to kill each other. They're legendary for it. I had ulcers. And I met a guy, and I worked with the Moody Blues and some other bands and did tour management. In those days, they worked for us. And then we'd put them on the road, and they'd sell lots of albums and lots of tickets. And I met a guy from 1960s rock and roll, Paul Revere. Anybody remember Paul Revere and the Raiders? Go ahead, raise your hands. You fell for it, just dated yourselves. And we called him Uncle Paul. He was 14 years older than me. We lost him a few years ago. And he said, Roger, you're never going to change the world working in the concert industry. I know these guys up in Canada doing this resort. Go up and help them build it. So I helped develop Whistler Resort in British Columbia. Then I went down to Copper Mountain Resort in Colorado to turn that around. I worked in all of these resort towns for 10 years. That's what our business was resort development and marketing. And then we started working for cities and towns in 1991, and we've worked in more than 2,000 since then. But I came from this industry. And granted, we're doing mega resorts compared to Frostfire. But when I saw the potential of this, I went, oh my gosh, this place has real potential. I mean, it really does. I think the lodge is great. I think the new chairlifts they put in are great. The snowboarding, I mean, I could see over time doing a public-private partnership and really helping that grow. But, you know, I mean, they do little things like the cornhole tosses. Even the theater, I thought that is so cool. And I'm going to share a story that you're going to like that has to do with this. Or something like it. But all of this, the all-terrain biking there, I just thought this is a gold mine waiting to happen. Now, I've talked to 3 or 4 or 5 people that whether they're at Frostfire or whether they're around the county that have told me that Walhalla hates tourism and doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And so that's a big question I have. I don't know if that's true, but I have a feeling it's not, but that's what we've heard. So there's see what I mean by perceptions and what you hear. But this, I just thought this could be really cool. I mean, some of these I know that their board, you know, it's now a nonprofit, and they're doing everything they can. But I'm telling you, when it comes to myth busting, you broke all of our expectations. And the rest of the country needs to know that. The rest of the world needs to know that. We could have easily spent a good week to 10 days in just your county and never run out of things to do. I mean, think about that. And so there you go. None of these states have anything over North Dakota. But even at the state level, North Dakota tourism is being outspent 3 times by the state of Montana. It's being outspent 5 times by South Dakota. It's being outspent 9 times by the state of Minnesota. And so we don't know, nobody knows anything about you. And that's a state problem. And so, I mean, what you have here is phenomenal. And influencer marketing is going to be really important for you. Influencer marketing is other people telling people how great North Dakota is. Because first of all, you don't do a very good job about it because you complain about the winter when we say North Dakota. And then, but if we can get third parties, people like us or other influencers, we're not really social media influencers, but other influencers say, man, I went up to northeastern North Dakota and my gosh, was I surprised. Look at what we saw. Like that article that I showed you a little earlier, it said, by Gorge, Pembina's got it, by Gorge. You know, and I thought it's awesome. So now, I'm going to go through your communities. Here's what we saw. Here's what we saw in each one. And I'm going to start with Bathgate. These are our first impressions. Somewhere there should be a sign that says, welcome to Bathgate. And there really wasn't one that we could find. And so, but we thought, okay, overall, good first impression. You know, I would love to see you do things like this on your website where you say, here's the top 3 or top 5 reasons why you should live in Bathgate. But once again, nice playground equipment, well-maintained, nice picnic shelter there. And once again, we want people in these photos. But overall, you know, I'm not sure what this is, probably somebody's home. But I thought that's really cool. They reused a building and made it a home or a live workspace. Just well taken care of. I'm not too sure. So in Crystal had one of the best gates. That's a great little sign. So if you don't have a sign, something like that, it's not that expensive, but it was a nice gateway sign, you know, and there it is. Other communities take note. And so, you know, Crystal, we saw a sign for a city park. We went over there. Now, one thing I would do is the sign, Crystal, their population 222, established in 1879, the sign is starting to get moldy and everything. put up a better sign, because otherwise we're going to say, if this is what it looks like here, what's it going to look like when we drive past these? And by the way, for any of you, once things like this get to be about 15 years old, maybe it's time to take down the sign. Now, if you had one in 2010, 2015, but we say, wow, 15 years ago, they used to have a good baseball team here. You know, that's not really going to work very well. Okay? And so, or if they've had them since then, update the sign. Now, there we go. So we're in here. Now, what we're starting to see here, these are like tennis courts or anything. Weeds growing through them, weeds growing through the concrete. Just take it down. Take it down. It's better to have nothing there than to see a whole disrepair. There's part of a shacky building right here, and then you can see all the weeds growing up, and inside in the middle of the concrete, weeds are growing up through it. Because then what happens is, and then right next to it is that. It's literally falling down. So in Crystal, I said, boy, we had a good first impression, and then we go, oh, maybe it's not that great after all. This is how people act. This is how we judge you. So I would just say, take this crap out of there. Just get it out of there. You know, because our other impressions were fine. I mean, this was great. You know, I mean, we do look at things like the schools. You know, I loved it, seeing the bikes out there and seeing the flowers there. And I mean, overall, our impression was good. But then there was a few little negatives. And those negatives can take you down fast. You know, and so that's what we want to see. You know, we look at the houses once again. And by the way, in this case, I don't know if you can really see that. There's no glass or anything in there. I don't even know if anybody lives here, but somebody's taking care of the landscape. And we're just going, oh my gosh, this place is hurting. And so these are the kinds of things that we judge you. You know, like this right here, seeing the hearse there, and it says, think on it. Very thought-provoking, but, you know, I just, okay. But overall, I'm just going, yeah, I think this needs a little cleanup here. You know, but, you know, peace, love, you know, think, you know, whatever. We got motorcycle. I mean, it just needs to be cleaned up. And I think that's really important. So if we go up to Drayton, and by the way, you're going to come back to each one of these again. I'm just telling you quality of life, and then I'm going to talk to you about tourism, what you have, and then commerce, your downtown areas. You know, the arena looks great in Drayton. You know, it looks like a nice asset to promote. I would always show pictures of not the building, but the interior during a hockey game or whatever goes on in the arena. And I think that's really important. Schumacher Park, we saw right there. You know, the park is open clear till midnight, which I thought, whoa, that's pretty cool. Campers, it had room for the campers there, had a really great gateway there. Minneapolis Steel there, machinery. I thought it was really great. Really nice, a nice park. And by the way, just so you know, we RV'd here. We left Arizona the beginning of April. We have not been back. So we've been in 31 states. We stayed in Grafton. We're at Listico Park in Grafton, if you know where that is. And we're there, but we looked at these. And by the way, RVers, and I know a lot of these RV campgrounds are used for harvest season. But one thing I wanted to say is, like, this campground was phenomenal. And but they need to be better promoted. You know, because a lot of them aren't even listed on RV sites like Campendium or Allstays or Good Sam. But once again, in Drayton, nice playground, nice, beautiful park, baseball diamonds. I mean, everything was maintained. One thing I love about North Dakota is that Scandinavian influence. Everything is neat as a pin. Even when you go by agricultural farms, you see all the trucks parked in a row, like exactly. It's like, do they get out and use a tape measure? I mean, they just really got it precision. And that's one thing I've always admired. The school looks really good. I mean, it looks pretty modern. I don't know if it is, but whatever they've done to it, it looked like a really good school. And we judge schools like this. And then we'll go online to see how it's rated. You do have a pool, and yes, we know we get it that it's winter. So this is not a negative photo, it's a positive photo. We just happened to be here after it was emptied for the winter. But the fact that Drayton had one is really great. But then we will see things like this, where it's all cracked, there's weeds growing through it. And for me, this one here is particularly sad, since Amy's Court, in loving memory of Amy Sharmer. You know, I went, oh man, this is in love, but now it's just falling apart. So sometimes we put things in, but we have no money or any way to maintain them, and then they fall apart. So maybe that court, it's almost, as a past tennis player, it's not really going to be very good for tennis anymore. It's kind of past its prime. Either fix it or take it out. You know, and that's my message for that. You know, and maybe make it Amy Schumer's Park or something, do something else. But nearly all the homes are very nice and well maintained. I mean, these are things we do, and these are things you need to promote. And they don't all have to be big, huge houses, you know, like this one. You know, but these are all beautiful homes, very well maintained. You know, the motel is, well, it's not there. So just take down the sign. Get a hold of, by the way, I think it's probably in the right-of-way of the highway. You know, and so, you know, things like that, you're just going, really? I mean, I drove around trying to find a motel. If there's one there, somebody better tell me where it is, because I never could find it. I think it's been gone for a long time. But get rid of the sign. So moving on to Hamilton. I did these in alphabetical order for the most part, except for I already passed Cavalier, but we'll get back to them. And so Hamilton, small little town. I actually think Pembina County should have a redevelopment authority. A redevelopment authority is where banks and federal, sometimes state money comes in, and it's a pot of money. Banks usually will loan it to a redevelopment authority at 0% interest, because what you do is you buy up buildings like this. You either tear them down and then let somebody homestead on that, or let a new business go there. Whatever it is, you need to redevelop it, and then what you do is after you tear it out or fix it, then you flip it back onto the tax rolls at market value, and then you grow that pot and you pay back the bank, and pretty soon you have your own pot to redevelop properties. And you need a lot of that in these towns. I mean, the roof is sagging, everything. I have a feeling it's a demolition project. And you may need to even get into eminent domain. That's where you condemn a building, but when you condemn a building, you do have to pay them what its value is. So that's where redevelopment funds can come in. But sometimes you have to do something, because our first impression is going to be, yeah, I don't think, I mean, the bank, is it actually operating? Okay, because we've seen Coda banks all over, and I could see the nice landscaping, but here's another problem with your towns. And yesterday we did Walsh County. Why does everything have to be gray, brown, and beige? I mean, you know, you just exude this drab look, you know, everywhere. And I thought, man, if that had some color on it, even if it had some mural on it, anything to make it look a little better. Most of the Coda banks look great. And that brings me to this. So if we take that building and think, man, you could do a really cool mural called Trompe l'oeil. Trompe l'oeil is French for fool the eye. And I want to show you some examples. That wall there is flat. There's no arch in it. It's flat. That's all painted on. Okay? That's it. There's Eric Groh. He's the artist that does these Trompe l'oeil fool the eyes. So there it is in process, and there it is done. Pretty cool, huh? That's Trompe l'oeil. So what you could do is get facade easements. You say, bank, could we have an easement to your facade, and then we could put public money into it to make it look better? And it doesn't have to be Trompe l'oeil. It could be any kind of mural. This is before, during, after. How cool is that? And one of my favorite ones is this one. This is in Winslow, Arizona. You know where I'm going, don't you? Standing on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. It's such a fine sight to see. There's a girl, my Lord, in a flatbed Ford slowing down to take a look at me. That was actually written by Jackson Brown. And he was going through Interstate 40 in Arizona, and his car broke down. He pulled into Winslow, and he started to write this song. He couldn't finish it, so he went to his friend Glenn Fry, who was a friend of mine, and went to Glenn Fry and said, I can't ever finish the song, would you do it? It was the Eagles' first big hit. Here's the point with this, and you can see the guitar guy, 1.5 million people a year stop in Winslow to get their picture taken on this corner. You can see the truck, they even have the truck parked there. You can see the reflection in the windows, that was a furniture store. I mean, there it is right there. You can see there's a picture, there's Glenn Fry for writing the song. And then, here's people taking the picture. And notice there's reflections of the girl in the flatbed Ford. You can see it looks like a furniture store over there. Well, guess what? That furniture store fell down a long time ago. There's the backside of what you just saw. But so if you did a Where's Waldo on the side of the bank, you know how many people would stop here to try to find Waldo? See what I mean? Whatever it is. But I just going, what could you do to get people to stop, to make things look a little better? Because in some of your towns, this would be a perfect candidate for that. I don't know if the building's savable or not, but if we don't see positive change, people are going to go, not this town. I'm going to go somewhere where things are starting to happen, and they want to see that change. And so some of these towns, here's the church there. It doesn't look like it's been used in decades or years. Some of these are really sad. And what's going to happen is if these towns want any kind of growth, you got to start. Give us hope. I actually believe that in some of these towns where you have a lot of homes that are falling down, nobody's lived in them for years, that you could actually, if you have to eminent domain them, or maybe they'll just deed it over to the city or the county or to a redevelopment authority. And then what you do is, I think this whole region was founded by homesteaders. You could still homestead some of these lots. Say, look, we just took out a home there, and if you we'll sell that to you for $100 if you build a new home and it's done within 24 months and it has to be at least 1,500 square feet. It can't be a manufacturer. See what I mean? You could create some rules to get people to come in and start living there and get them to reinvest in there. So you have to take out some of this stuff so that they could invest in new stuff. And then here, is it Hensel? I don't even know what this city is. What is it? Is it Hensel or is it Canton City? They go by Hensel? But these are things like, can you just decide? You in the county don't even know. And so, once again, it's a nice little home right there. I thought that was very nice. For a town of 33 people, I thought that was really cute. That's a nice home. Got the pumpkins out there. But then what happens is we'll see stuff like this. Now, I don't know if they're remodeling or what's going on there. But it's kind of like, now I'm starting to see the other side of that. And then this is what we start to see. Notice all the windows and everything. And I don't know how long the motorcycles have been there. But all of a sudden, even though I feel bad for the people that have the nice homes, because this cancels them out. You have to have like 3 nice homes for every bad home in order to overcome a bad first impression. It has a nice little playground. It's got swing sets. And remember, this is a town of like 33 people. And so they need some cleanup. Mountain. Loved Mountain. And the reason, I love the fact that it says it's an Icelandic community. All of a sudden, it sets them apart from everybody else. And look at that. 122nd Annual Deuce of August, July 30th, 31st. They have an invitation to invite us back. It's one of the very few cities in all 4 counties that said, we hope you'll come back in July. Right there on their gateway sign. And I love that quote down there. What is as joyful as a gathering of good friends? Before we even saw the town, we went, oh my gosh, I love this place. That's what we do. We judge the book by the cover. Look at that. And this town, it was as neat as a pin. This is, I'll talk about this in a minute. I think it's a senior center there. And as a matter of fact, I was kind of confused. I didn't know it says the Borg is hiring, and I didn't know if they'd been assimilated yet or not. We don't have any Star Trek fans here? Captain Picard, you know, he's assimilated by the Borg. And I don't know, Borg, I don't know what it means in Icelandic. It must, you know. So I have a feeling it has nothing to do with science fiction. But I believe I think it's a senior center, but it looked really nice. So anyway, I'm just jesting with that. Overall, beautiful town. I mean, it was just nice. It was beautiful. It was as neat as a pin. I mean, this house already has its Christmas tree lights hung up around the porch. A little early, but then I saw this, a garage door. And I remember somewhere I was at in Minnesota or somewhere where they had garage doors and it meant something if there was a garage door in the front yard. I couldn't remember it. And so I'm still baffled. I'm going, why is there a garage door in the front yard? Does anybody know? Okay, I got to figure that one out. So probably has something Icelandic. Great buildings in town, you know, nice little playground. You know, just overall, I just thought this was really great. So here we go, Neche. See? I got it. Whew, I hope I can remember that. And once again, welcome to Neche. And you know what? The town deserves a better sign than that one. You know, best on the border, that's fine. But the sign is just kind of like, yeah, it could be a little bit better. You know, home of the North Border Eagles, which is shared. And that's 2001 state champions. We're on the border of that. But at least it's in this century. And so, I mean, beautiful churches. Most of your towns have beautiful churches. And what's amazing is that I hate to say this, but the Catholics are really outdoing you guys on the Lutheran churches, you know. Those Catholics really know how to build beautiful churches. I'm just giving you a bad time. But that's a pretty church. And that, I don't even know, that might be a Lutheran church. So, but anyway, I love the pole banners there with the eagles on them. I thought that was neat. I think every community should have pole banners welcoming us to their community. I thought the beautiful home there, look at that, that's just beautiful. It's a nice little town. That's what we thought. We had no bad impressions of Neche at all. Pembina, we did go up to the border there and did see that. We didn't go across. But Pembina, we did come and do that. Welcome to Pembina, oldest settlement in the Dakotas. And you know, I think I've seen that in 2 or 3 other towns. But anyway, I thought it was a nice gateway sign. It's got the little miniature buffaloes there. And of course, you know, oldest settlement is probably not a reason anybody's going to live there. I think it's a cool thing for tourism maybe, if there's something to show. But overall, you know, I'm not sure what you're going to be known. This is across the highway from it, but with all the flags there. You know, one thing I love about these 4 counties, I was glad to be in a place that appreciates America. I saw American flags everywhere. And that was one thing, you know, coming from an urban area. I mean, Phoenix isn't bad, but California's been moving there. But it was just great. And I'm not getting into politics. It's just great to feel like, yeah, I'm in America again, you know, after what we've been hearing on the news every day. And so I thought that was neat. And I also thought that was really cool. They had free corn. You could just go pick your own corn there. You know, we didn't, but I thought that was awesome that they were letting people just come and get some. The school looks good there. We did go by the school. And then, you know, homes again. Once again, you're going to see lots of houses. I mean, these are our first impressions of you for quality of life. And so I think the homes look great. I mean, that's beautiful. And they don't all have to be, you know, mansions or anything. I mean, they're just well-maintained, well taken care of. You know, love the architecture of that one. Got the American flag palette over there. I just thought, just really cool. But then, this is right out on the highway. So before you go see all that, you see stuff like this, and you may go, yeah, Pembina, I'm not so sure. So stuff like this needs to be cleaned up. And towns need to have abatement ordinances. Or you go to the owner and say, look, if you give me the title to these broken down cars, give us the title and we'll get rid of them. Then you work with junkyards. Junkyards will come and get them just for the scrap metal and parts. but you got to start cleaning these places up so it gets you a good first impression. I mean, the town, I mean, this is customs or immigration. I mean, it's just like, wow, that's really beautiful. Quite frankly, I thought it should have been like a hotel or something. But once again, the community center looked beautiful. So in Pembina, everything looked really, really good. We were really impressed. Just a really nice town right up there next to the border. And of course, they share the same school as Neche, it looks like. So, but 20 years later, we're on that border. As far as it had great playgrounds, and I'll quickly go through it. It had the pool there. It wasn't emptied yet, but it could use some paint. You can see the building starting to look pretty tired. And these are things we noticed. You know what? I can't assess where we live because I know it too well. But so for us, we notice things like that paint, or we notice anything. And this, I thought this was in Pembina, but it's Neche Pioneer Park. Maybe I got my photos mixed up there, right there. But still, really, really a nice town. And then we're coming to St. Thomas, which is the first town we did, but I think the last one alphabetically. Nice little sign there. Now, I will say something about the sign. It looks more like a cemetery marker. And I'm not so sure, I thought it could do a little, welcome to St. Thomas. I think your gateway sign is where we get our first, like, whoa, this is really nice. Instead, it's like, okay, well, it's a little understated. And by the way, it's not bad. I wouldn't go out there and say, well, we got to tear it down now that Roger said it looks like a cemetery marker at all. But for me, I thought it could be, for any community, just make a really strong first impression. This is a beautiful town. This was our first one. We went, wow, if all the towns are like this is going to be a piece of cake. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. But that was our first impression. I mean, even things like the ladybugs on the tree. How cool is that? See, those are stuff we notice as visitors looking for a place to live or invest in. I mean, I think that's gorgeous. So you have to just look at that. So these are all the photos that should be on your individual websites. With people, kids playing on the equipment, parents sitting there in lawn chairs. You got the baseball fields. Every town should be promoting quality of life on their websites. I could just see a couple families there having picnics with the water tower in the background. Then you run into a few things like this. And you kind of go, ugh. So some of those you may say, hey, we need to get that out of there because overall it was like 100 nice houses to one really rough one. And there was a couple of those that we kind of went, oh man, I hope they can get those out of there. And then finally, now we're getting to the end of the alphabet on quality of life. And in Walhalla, first of all, there's no name on the sign. I don't even know what town it is. And I could not make out what that art is as you're coming down the highway. Now I can see it and stare at it, and there's an elk, I think. I don't know what this thing is, but then there's a tree and some bricks. But once again, it didn't even say where I was at. So for Walhalla, I would probably down the road, because would you be able to make that out at all, other than the word welcome? See, and so that was the one thing that was missing, I thought, in this particular case. It could have used that, but beautiful homes. We saw lots of them. We saw, beautiful church again, which we saw in just about every downtown. And then we saw this one kind of was, I thought, this is Walhalla. That's a town in Washington State. Walhalla. It's a wine town, but I think it's a theater or something. But we did see that, but then we see things like this where it looks like somebody was working on it and then they gave up. And those are things I think you got to keep working on. And so, it had nice tennis courts. These were well maintained. These are the things we look at. And so nice playgrounds, beautiful parks, nice homes. Overall, I thought Walhalla was great. And I'll tell you about, we did try to eat there, and I'll explain that in a bit. But once again, that's beautiful. Somebody did a lot of work there. And I think this is senior living in Walhalla. Beautiful, beautiful building. So I just thought it was nice. The high school looked, everything in Walhalla we thought looked really great. just well done. Loved the pumpkins and the corn stalks around the pole there. I thought was really cool with the moose. Is there moose in the area? There are, huh? I didn't know that. I saw that news. I said, there must be moose around here. City Park, we saw that. I think the City Park could use a better sign, of course. That sign there is hard to read. And it's a gorgeous, gorgeous park. I just think it deserves a better sign when you go into it. It's just beautiful. I love the stage. I would love to see does anything ever happen on this stage? In Walhalla? No? Yes? Yeah? What I'd love to see is people in Walhalla don't know. But what you could do is a reader board, just somewhere that just says, by the way, welcome to Riverside Park Stage or whatever. And then what you could do with that is just put, here's our upcoming 2022 events. I mean, we've had COVID and everything where we can't even do events. But I do believe that promoting this and upcoming, always invite people back. If you don't mind, invite people back. It also has the pool, which is great. And so great amenities, just really, really nice amenities. And so I thought it was really a beautiful place. And it's a place I'd love to go camping. And that brings me to this. We have a thing called the Destination Development Association that you all are going to have access to through the Red River Regional Council. And we have a video how to cater to RVers. So I want to talk about that just for a second. Last year, they sold 500,000 new RVs. This year, they expect to sell 580,000 new RVs. And it isn't just COVID. It's been growing for the last 10 years. There are 2 million people that live in RVs full time. I mean, heck, we're digital nomads. That's what they call us because we're working on the road. And these campgrounds, they want the rural areas. They're not going to say, I want to camp in downtown Fargo or Grand Forks. They're looking for places that they can camp in the rural areas. But if I go to Campendium, which is like TripAdvisor, but for RVs, here's mountain, but there's no photographs, there's no reviews. There's Hager Park, there's Icelandic State Park. It does have 5 reviews. Look at that, 5 stars. Woohoo! Way to go. Hami Dam has 2 reviews. But a lot of your parks, there's Walhalla, but there's no reviews, there's no photos, there's no real anything there. So you need to get these listed. These are people that'll spend money in your town. By the way, RVers, they shop where you shop. We shop at grocery stores, we shop at gas stations, hardware stores. We're looking for propane. We're looking for all of those types of things. So they just shop more like locals. And so that's really important. But it's a gorgeous, gorgeous RV park in Walhalla. I just thought, wow, and so close to all this recreation. And then finally, Cavalier. Okay, and then we'll move on to tourism. Cavalier, I did last because it's the biggest one. The gateway sign, you know what? I'm not a big fan of concrete block signs. And that one there, I just thought really doesn't do much justice for Cavalier. It just looks like aggregate. It looks like something from 1978. No offense. But at least you do have a gateway sign. It's also in a good location. Most of your gateway signs were in good locations. But beautiful homes, once again. And I've already showed some of Cavalier. But I mean, how cute is that? Almost over the top. But, but still, I think somebody did a lot of work on that. School looked great. So we didn't have any negativity there at all. Now I've done some research, but at first I'm going, what the heck? And then I finally found out there's, what is it, the Air Force, with the base there that, And so, but it would have been nice if there would have been an interpretive sign. So people would go, what the heck is that? It's Cavalier's missile defense system. But state champions, there we go, 1987. Oh, you do have clear up to 2014, so I think that's great. Leave it. Okay? Because this shows for 11-man football, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So when you've had 9 of those, so wow, there's still hope for them, even though it's 5 years later. And so I think that was a good sign. I think that did a good job for quality of life. And then we did see this little trail This was kind of the cover shot. I have no idea where that goes. We tried to drive around this neighborhood to figure out where it connected on the other side. Where is that? Do you guys, do you know, Kelly, do you know where that, you know where that is? Yeah, it goes Smile. Goes right to my house. Oh, does it? Goes somebody's, okay. Great. What time should we be there for dinner? No, it's, okay, we didn't know. I thought it was a public trail, but we didn't walk on it, you know. And so, is it a public trail or? It is, okay. It goes from one neighborhood, oh, what's that?
Yeah, it goes from one neighborhood
over to the other one, okay. We tried to figure out, we didn't get into your backyard, that's why we never found it. Yeah, but anyway, it looks great, it looks fantastic. I mean, just that, I just thought, wow, that's really cool. This is a cool town. You know, I got to tell you, with all these towns, we would go down every single street we could find. That's how we logged up 2,400 miles in a few weeks. But overall, I mean, it's fantastic. You know, and by the way, here's another stage. Does anything ever take place on this stage? If so, then say, hey, the first weekend in July or the first weekend, you know, always invite us back. If you don't mind visitors, invite us back. Let us know what's coming up this fall, next spring. You know, just some kind of a reader board. But overall, I mean, what can I say? I mean, it's gorgeous. Love it. Got the disc golf there. Got the pool there. It looks good. Doesn't need paint, you know. And I love this crosswalk. I love that crosswalk. I think that's so cool. I love towns with color. Remember I said about gray, beige, and brown? Just seeing some color there at the park I thought was really cool. And you know, then of course that is courthouse? Yeah. That's the county courthouse. Okay, it looks really good. So those are what we saw for quality of life. Now I'm going to jump right into tourism. What we saw in each of these towns for tourism. And in Bathgate we saw this. St. Francis, you know, Bethlehem community, that looked like it could be really cool. And what I understand is that they actually publish children's books there. But there's no sign, there's no information. Even if they had a little store, maybe they're not set up to have a little store. But I just thought this could be a tourism asset. We're not talking about hordes of people, but people that want to learn what they do there, how they do it. I know it's a lay ministry. We went online to look things up, but most visitors won't. They're just going, that's really cool. Well, next. And they're moving on. But I thought it had some potential, even if it was just an interpretive sign, you know, or if they had a little shop, even somewhere in town that said, here's the books we publish, and you can buy them. And I'm guessing they still do that. That was about it there. In Drayton, when we went up the street, we did go to the Visitor Information Center. It's designed like a blockhouse, but I couldn't find any information of why it was. And it could be back to the War of 1812 or whenever we were doing the Canadian-American border disputes. But in here, there was really no local information. It was all about, welcome to Drayton, and here's all the information for everything to do outside of the Rendezvous region. I mean, this is all North Dakota. So you got the North Dakota guide, you got the North Dakota maps, but then we got Devil's Lake and Jamestown and Medora and Fargo and everybody but this region. And so I thought, man, you're right here. You need to have local information at these. And so that was missing. We did see Hastings Landing right here, recreation area, but I don't know where the recreation area is. I see a boat ramp, but that's it. I don't see any trails. There's no information. It's just there. And Drayton's right on the river, and I just go, wow, they don't monetize it at all. I mean, you barely even see that it's there. And that was really too bad. They do have a nice golf club. We saw that. So I thought, is this open for public play? It is. No signs, no information. If you go to the clubhouse, there should be a sign that says we're open for public play. And do they have cart and club rentals? Do they have a pro shop? Do they teach lessons? Is it 9 holes? Is it 18? Nothing. And this is true for all your golf courses. You don't let us know. Is it open for, invite us in. So I had no clue. This is the very first time I've seen this. Down in Grand Forks, you might go to, I can't remember the name of the restaurant, they're world famous grinders. Well, here it is. There's the grinder instructions right there. Now, I've seen fish cleaning stations, but I didn't realize you could grind up the bones and whatever's left. So that's a grinder instructions there. But I'm not sure where you go fishing, or I didn't see a fishing pier or anything. And I think grinder, that is what that's for, isn't it? For cleaning, getting rid of the rest of the fish when you're done cleaning it. So anyway, I just thought, well, maybe fishing is good in Drayton. And then I saw that, Catfish Capital of the North. I went, good for them, they have a brand. So is it really the Catfish Capital of the North? Yeah? And you catch them in the river, right there? The Red River? Yeah, right there. Huh. That is by the way, that's a really great logo. I love that. But see, this, you should promote it. We have an Icelandic community. We have a catfish capital. Some of your lakes might be more about walleye or perch or bass. I don't know. But each one of these communities should say, what do we have that we could draw visitors in? Remember, and we're not talking about bringing hordes of tourism. We're just trying, anybody who's going to come that you may want to live in your community, they're going to come first as a visitor. And so we did see that. And by the way, I got to tell you, I've been doing this for 40 years. Since 1991, doing exactly this kind of work. This is the very first time I've ever seen a fish grinding station. See, you always learn things that are new. You guys are going, what, really? So, there was Drayton. Hamilton, okay, is the fairgrounds. Now, Pembina County Fair, and it always shocks me when I'm in a rural community and I see razor wire, barbed wire, and you know what it tells me? This is not a safe place. That's the message you send to people. I mean, I was like, really? Is this that unsafe? That we have to put razor wire around our fairgrounds? They're beautiful fairgrounds, by the way. I think they're really nice. I mean, it's just great. And then, but once again, we've got on target, let's see, July 8th to 10th, 2021, so that's great. Now, we are in September when I took that picture. You should have next year's dates up there to invite us back. And if I imagine there's other things take place at the fairgrounds besides the county fair, or is that it? Just those 2 days a year? Or,
There's a reason for it. Yeah.
Okay.
You have to go to a convention to set the next date because it depends upon your carnival that you can get and the entertainment.
Okay, but what if somebody wanted to do auctions and other things there? Can they rent out the fairgrounds? Okay, so that's, if there were other public events, this is a good place to promote them, even if they're done by other people. So that's all I'm saying. But the fairgrounds look great. I mean, they look great. And the barbed wire, I'd rather have you have a taller chain link fence because it just sends a message. And we did see a lot of big rigs there already, and I'm not sure why they were there, if there was something else going on. But what's that?
People coming in.
Oh, really? Okay, didn't know that. Yeah, but great. Looked really nice. So on to Mountain, and in Mountain, of course, once again, it was the invite us back. But one of the key things was I love this church. It's just beautiful. And what's really cool, this is the oldest Icelandic church in America. And so that gives you, that's like, well, that's really cool. Now, it was locked. We couldn't go in it. Maybe it's open sometimes. But once again, it was just well maintained. And these are things we're looking for. When we were there, we saw the community center in Mountain. That looked really, really nice. Then we saw the Mountain Cafe. We almost went over to that house because we thought, doesn't it look like that sign belongs to that? There's no arrow that telling you where the cafe was. And so we came, it was almost lunchtime. We came really, really close to just walking in their door. Said, we're here for lunch. And they're going to go, who the hell are you? But then when we turned around after we took that picture, then we could see the Chalet Cafe over there. Now, it wasn't open. I don't know when it's open, if it's ever open, but you need to have hours when you're open and invite us back if you're closed. And so that's where we saw it. But over in that sign, they ought to have an arrow that points it over to this building, because that's around the end. You would never even see it when you're first driving in. Once again, they had an RV park. In most of these RV parks, there's no signs. Who do we call it? Do you just go, we call it mooch docking, where you just show up and plug in. So I don't know where you call, who you call, if it's owned by the city, if it's private, I have no clue, no signs. So these are things you could do that would all generate traffic. And once again, it should be listed in Campendium. And then, of course, at the museum, I just thought, what a waste. There's nothing. I mean, I would have this full of all kinds of cool information. You know, it didn't really say anything. There was just a few little posters there. And it's like, oh, come on, you could do a really good display there. And then this side of it's like, oh my gosh, I guess this is what you call a natural landscape. You just let the weeds go. But this is the very entrance. This is what you first see. When we saw this entrance, we thought, this isn't going to be very good. But it was awesome. So what happened is, it was actually, whoa, this is better than we expected. But on the other hand, it would be nice. I wonder how many people say, yeah, I'm not so sure, and they don't even go in. So I would just, maybe a garden club or somebody could adopt that and just make a nice garden there. Or plant trees there, anything. But once again, they did a really good job inside. And they had really good information there, including there was local information there. And we even bought one of those little North Dakota passports. Have you seen those? The little passports you can buy, and you get them stamped, or you can rub the, you know, and I can't remember what you win, but they had those there. It's the first time we saw them in any of the 4 counties. And of course, we went up to the church, and there's, you know, how do we turn around without leaving the country? And that's something you got to work on. And maybe after they reopen the border here in a couple of weeks, that'll be fixed. The duty-free was closed, and I imagine it was closed because the border's closed, or is it permanently closed? It's permanently closed, okay. And so what happens is, with a lot of your things, we don't know whether you're open or closed. And so remember when we went there and we asked the museum where to eat, and they said the golf course might be open. So we did drive around to find the golf course. And it wasn't easy to find, but we did find it, and it looks beautiful, and it was locked up. And there's no hours on it, doesn't say when or if they're open. And so what's happening is, we're in your county trying to find a place to spend money besides buying lunch at a gas station. And we were here for days, and we had a hard time ever finding a place to eat lunch, dinner, breakfast. And so that is, you're not monetizing tourism very well. And so that was too bad. We did see Welcome to Pembina. See, I almost slipped. Recreation area. It's so funny. We went across the bridge, and I went, wow, we're in Minnesota. And then we realized, well, we're across the river, but it still says Pembina. And then we realized, wrong river. But beautiful area. Just a beautiful area. And by the way, fishing good here? Anybody know? See, all these places you should be boating. And I don't know what you catch there. Is it trout? Is it bass? I mean, it's a river, so I'm not sure. Probably trout. I'm not sure what you catch there. But those are things you could promote. At that little place, there's this log cabin there, but no signs, no information. I don't know how old it is, why it's there. I don't know if maybe some days somebody's going to put up an interpretive sign, but I have a feeling there's a story there that could be told. What's that? Oh, so it's going to be moved. Oh, okay. Where's it going to be moved to? Do you know? Okay. And what you could do is say, I'd even put up a temporary sign that says, hey, this is a classic house from whatever, or trading post, whatever it used to be. And in 2022, it's going to be moved over, you know, just so that people say it's an invitation. I always say, give me an invitation to come back. You know, St. John's, we saw the church there. And it looks like some of these places, you know, I don't know if it's a museum now. Don't know if it's ever open. I mean, there's no information, really nothing there. And so these are things that could be better monetized. By the way, there's something I want to tell you about tourism. Number one rule is how do you get people to stop? Then once you get people to stop, if they will spend 2 hours, spending doubles. Because they're going to be close to, while we're here, let's have lunch. Let's get something to eat. Let's get something to drink. Let's fill the car with gas. I mean, 2 hours. Of course, overnight visitors spend 3 to 4 times more than day visitors. But your whole goal, can we get people to stop for 2 hours? They'll spend more money. That's the benefit of tourism. And so when you have great RV parks, you know, they need to be listed, and RVers spend money. You know, don't spend as much money as hotel stays, but they're close. Love this, the Josephine Garnett home. I don't know, is this a museum? Does anybody know what this is? Because it says no trespassing. So why are you promoting it if you can't go there? Oh, okay. See, and they ought to put like a QR code or just say a URL, a website address where you could get more information, because we didn't know what it was. We had no clue. And so there's a missed opportunity, especially when you have a no trespassing sign there. If we go back to Walhalla now in tourism, you know, I would, like right here it says Trotwood State Forest. I think there's a viewpoint. How far down the road is the viewpoint? Anybody know?
It's a good several miles.
See, there's no miles. And so we started to turn there.
No, that's just hiking trails.
It just says Trotwood State Forest, North Dakota Forest Service, and then it says wildlife viewing area.
Yeah, it's just down the hill.
Like a mile or 20 miles?
No, a quarter.
See, so on these signs it should say viewing area 1/4 mile. Otherwise, we have no clue. Otherwise, we don't have a clue. We didn't go there because we don't know how far it was. So I would always add distances to these signs. And then, of course, we see ski area 7 miles. See, that's what you need to do. Ski area 7 miles. Pembina Gorge State Recreation 8 miles. And Walhalla could be a major player in tourism if the community wants it. And I think there's a few people that probably don't, but maybe there's more people that do. It's something we need to hear from Walhalla. Do you want tourism? And we're not trying to overrun any town. But if we're going to go to the Gorge or Frostfire, why not leverage it and take advantage of it? Why not get some people to eat meals? Or maybe they'll say, well, I want to live here next to all of this. So that'd be great. This is the back out by the border again, and was a really great story. I think these interpretive signs are fantastic. I wish they were in more places where museums aren't open. You know, the Forestwood Inn Hotel, here's one thing I saw all over these 4 counties. Nobody claims their Google listing, which is free. I mean, yesterday down in Walsh County, I showed them a restaurant, I think it was in Minto, that said it's permanently closed, and it's not. But they never even claimed their listing, so now anybody coming from the outside is going to think they're permanently closed. I didn't see, like there are people, like for instance, on TripAdvisor, the Forestwood Inn has some horrible reviews. The owners don't even respond to the reviews saying, hey, we're fixing that, or we're really sorry you had a bad experience. I mean, this is TripAdvisor is the #1 travel website in the world. But nobody, I mean, it's like, I guess they don't care if they have occupancy or not. But I thought, man, this hotel so close to those could be really well done, but they don't respond to their reviews. They're just kind of like, we're here, but we don't know anything about tourism. And so that was kind of shocking for a hotel. It looks halfway decent, but when we read the reviews, we just went, we're not staying there, which is too bad. And that brings us to this. You know, so it says, Walhalla Supper Club, Highway 32 Diner, which I don't think, is this even open anymore? I didn't think so. But there it is. It's got 11 reviews. It says they're open. You know, but most people, they're not claiming, they don't ever say anything. And so that was a real challenge. We did eat at the Walhalla Inn. Is it an inn? But it's not an inn. It's just a restaurant. Well, we went in there and we ate, and I walked in the door and went, oh my God, I just got transported to 1974. Really? It hasn't changed at all. Now, I didn't think that was bad, but I will tell you it was a buffet, and it was like fried chicken. So we said, well, we'll just do the buffet, but they were out of fried chicken. And it's like, okay, then they brought some more fried chicken out, and it was like way overdone. You could barely chew through it was just not a very good experience. And maybe it was just the night we're there. So I don't want to throw them under the bus, but I just thought that, like, first of all, we couldn't figure out how you go in there, because it looked like it used to be an inn, and there's some doors on this side, and then we finally figured out you go in the back door or in a side door, and then we did find it, but we didn't know where we would sit and eat and all those kinds of things. But we did figure it out. The lady that was working there was nice, but I just thought, man, they should respond to their reviews and stuff, and so we were like a little disappointed, you know, and I think the decor was definitely dated. But, you know, that wasn't a big negative. So in the Gorge recreation area, we love this. Obviously, you know, there's places to put in your kayaks and all that. And, of course, there's no water. I mean, that's it. It's like ankle deep. And that's because you've had a major drought. And then Frostfire is easy to find. But I got to tell you that Frostfire, starting in Walhalla, puts out signs, Frostfire, Frostfire, Frostfire. And we had no clue what Frostfire was. It doesn't say Frostfire Park, it doesn't say skier, it doesn't say anything, it just says Frostfire. So we don't know whether it's an ice cream shop, a fire prevention business. We have no clue. We just know there's signs say Frostfire, so we thought we'd go find it. But we were trying to find the Gorge, and so we even used the navigation system. And you can see there, so we said, okay, take us to the navigation system, take us to Pembina Gorge recreation area, and it took us right there. I mean, we're going, okay, this is up on that road that's up on the plateau that goes up around it, and so it says that's it, right there. And it's a beautiful spot, but, you know, we saw some nice fall color. But you can go into Apple Maps, you can go into Apple and Google Maps and actually change where the locations of these are. Because it's the wrong location, totally wrong location. And there's no directional signs there. It just says 7 miles that way, good luck. And so finally we went back and we thought, oh, there's a sign. Let's follow that down 2.5 miles. And so we did go down 2.5 miles down there. I mean, it was off by like 8 or 10 miles. It wasn't even remotely close. And we did go here, and we did see this. Now, here's our challenge we had here. Is first of all, there's no toilet paper in the restrooms, okay? And we needed to use them. And then we go over here, and there's no brochures in anything. There's no real information here. So you have this state recreation area that's just kind of like, here we are, and it's got trails and stuff, but there's just no real helpful information here. And so we just thought, I don't know how you would enjoy this. It doesn't tell you any distances. It doesn't tell you. And part of our problem was on the Rendezvous Region website, there were people hiking here, and it doesn't look like a hiking place. It looks like an OHV, an off-highway vehicle, an off-road vehicle place. And hikers and off-road vehicles do not mix. I mean, the last thing a hiker wants is get run over by somebody in OHV. So I don't know if this is more of an ATV park, or if there's separate hiking trails that are separate so you don't get run over. I mean, we couldn't figure this place out. And my horseback trails, I don't know. There's no maps to take with us if we want to walk it. And so for us, I mean, there's Jane going, where's the brochures? Something, anything, help us out. The cell service is really poor, and people aren't going to call a number. I mean, I always say, we don't call anybody now. We text and say, is it okay if I call you? You know, and so this here was, is as beautiful as it is. I mean, we walked up there, and there was another car with a couple of guys. They walked up there, and as we're walking away, I could see them going like this. They didn't know what to clue. I mean, we don't know how to use it, where to go. I mean, when you do this, we say, okay, trail courtesy. If you have a car, I guess you can go on the trail. If you have a bike, you can go on the trail. If you want to hike, you want to go on the trail. But you have to yield to horses. Well, what about cars yielding to pedestrians? And so right there where you got, and really cars are allowed on this. That's not a picture of an ATV. So we could not figure out the Pembina Gorge. And my first reaction was, man, maybe the state ought to concessionaire this out to Frostfire and let Frostfire manage the whole thing and rent ATVs or create some separate hiking trails. And if there are separate hiking trails, never found them, couldn't find them. And so I have to say, this looks like it might be a hiking trail. Maybe it's a single track trail. Maybe it's just a wildlife trail. I don't know. There's no signs. There's no information. So for us, I have to say, as stunningly beautiful as this is, it was a poor experience because there was just really we had nothing to go on. Wasn't, you know, and I kept thinking, well, if it's a state, Icelandic, this is easy to figure out this place, but why over there is there just really no information, I don't know what's going on there. And so for us, we kind of left saying it's beautiful, but I don't know what you do there. It looks like it's an ATV destination. And maybe I'm totally wrong, but, you know, and that was our suggestion. Maybe you just, you know, concessionaire this out to Frostfire and let them just do the whole thing and create some more revenues for them and ATVs and everything. We did see this, and it said, this sign says Vang Bridge. It's a put-in spot, and I know there's no water in the river right now, but right here, I mean, is this private property? Is that public? Is this the put-in spot? Does anybody know? Okay, but down, it was like overgrown down to the river. I'm going, well, how do you put in I couldn't imagine us carrying our kayaks down that bank. Now, maybe because there's no river there right now. Maybe it normally is up a lot higher. But we weren't sure whether this is private property or if that was actually it. So does that make sense? So it's beautiful, stunning area that I think is really sad. With the case of Frostfire, I mean, the first 2 times we went there, the gates were closed. And there's no sign right there that says what days we're open, what weeks we're open, what we do in the winter that says it's a ski area in the winter. There's nothing. You just arrive and it's like Frostfire. It's like, okay, what the heck is this? Remember, we're visitors, not locals. And it goes back to this sign. Somewhere there should be a reader board that says, you know, we open after, or a website says check in here to see when we're open. But it is a beautiful place. But, you know, I would call it the Frostfire Terrain Park. I would give it a better name so it kind of is descriptive. The Frostfire Terrain Park or Bike and Ski Park, whatever. I'd do something that better identifies it. And with the marketing of Frostfire, they haven't even claimed their name on Google. I mean, matter of fact, it says suggest and edit, own this business. I mean, marketing 101, the first thing you do is you claim your Google business, your listing. Get on TripAdvisor. You know, and by the way, it says it was closed that day. It says opens 4 p.m. Friday. It wasn't open that Friday. It wasn't open that Saturday because there's nobody there to manage this. So when we went there, the first 2 times it was closed, but then we met Patty and Dustin up there that sit on the board and kind of manage it. And so they met us up there on Sunday. And what was really sad, they were closed. This was just a couple Sundays ago. They were closed, but cars kept driving in there. There was a couple that drove all the way from Thompson to have lunch there. They drive up. There was a string of cars driving up there because the gates were open for us. Because all of these, Google and everything said they were open and they were closed. Can you imagine what these people are going to put on Instagram, on Facebook, on stuff? Say, we went up there, it was closed. We don't know when or if it's ever open. I mean, Patty kept going out to the car, said, I'm really so sorry. I'm really so sorry we're closed. I'm sorry. I mean, it was just like, For me, it was just like, no, I came from this industry. And it's like, no, you can't do it this way. It is a beautiful facility. I mean, I just think this has all the potential in the world of being probably the biggest and best attraction tied with the Gorge in these 4 counties. And next to that would be this, Icelandic State Park and the museum across the highway. But it is really, I mean, even that, can you imagine? This place could be full of weddings. It could be full of retreats. I'd put a ropes course. They're pretty inexpensive to build there. And you do business retreats, team building events. I could just see family reunions there, competitions there, biking competitions. I mean, I just went, whoa, this place has so much potential to be more than it is. I mean, even what they're doing there on all the upgrades are fantastic. But I just kept going, wow, this could be really amazing. And I just went, both the Gorge and this, I just went, man, they need a business plan because this could be really cool. I mean, I think it really is cool, and they spent a lot of money making it better. But I just think that this could just be awesome. It needs a hotel. So somewhere, whether it's at Frostfire, somewhere somebody needs to build some lodging. There is an old house there that workers used to stay in, and Dustin called it the Nun House. At first I thought he said Nut House. And I went, what? And he said Nun House. It used to be a convent or something. Now it got water in it, and it's pretty, we walked through the whole thing in the too much dry rot. But he said, well, we could rebuild it for $700,000. You go, why would you do that? I'd build 10 cabins instead. See what I mean? That generate revenue or could house some employees. It needs a caretaker there full time. You know, and so, because in this hotel, maybe if you said, would you upgrade your hotel so that we could promote you for weddings and things? But I just thought it could be awesome. I think the theater is fantastic. And that takes me to a story I want to tell you. We're going to take a little side trip to Alberta. And out in the middle of the Alberta prairie out there, you can see that red circle there is Calgary. Up there is Edmonton. And that little circle out there is a little town called Rosebud. And Rosebud is out there not too far away from Drumheller. It's kind of in the Badlands area, but it's really an agriculture community. It's just out there in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody, I mean, you don't see, there's the Canadian Badlands over there. Calgary's an hour and a quarter that way. And so here's Rosebud, a satellite picture of it. And so we thought, well, here's the story. In 1973, it became a summer camp for 40 teenagers that were troubled with a focus on performing arts. Okay? In 1977, 4 years later, it became the Rosebud School of the Arts. And in 1983, it became a post-secondary school. And it still only had like 40 or 50 kids. And so you come into Rosebud. This is it now. You come in there, and that's a mercantile right on the corner right there. It's got a little museum right across the street. And there is the museum there. And people come there, and from everywhere. And there's the mercantile's on the corner. There's their meat market in there. And they have this restaurant in there. They serve a buffet dinner. And why would they serve a buffet dinner? Because they have a theater. And I'm going to show you that. But here's the mercantile. So what happens is you would buy tickets. So they have the Rosebud Opera House. It's this little opera house, seats like 150 people. And you could buy tickets, and you would drive out there. You go into the mercantile, and they have a buffet dinner. It's really nice, nicely done. And then when you're done having that dinner, you would leave the mercantile and you'd walk over to the Opera House. And so what's really cool about this place, Sherlock Holmes, The Case of the Christmas Carol, I mean, they do all these, we went there and saw The Kite. You can see it down there at the very bottom. And they do these performances out there. And it's a beautiful little theater. I mean, it's just, the stage is, well, it's probably twice the size of this one, but pretty small. This is the set of On Golden Pond that they were doing. They run April through December. And remember, they're in Alberta Prairie. It's also cold out there and snowy and everything. They run 141 days and 200 performances a year. Okay? So, and then they do backstage tours and everything. You pay for those. And they do director talks. So you can sit there and talk to the director about how they orchestrate, how they choreograph, how they do everything with these plays. And they raised $800,000, and they did it in about 4 months. And this little school, I mean, it does performing arts of all kinds. So it's not just stage. And then they even got to help build the Rosebud Center, the arts. I mean, they even do little things like the annual Rosebud Music Festival. So your 15 minutes of fame, you can come and step on the stage and play the guitar or whatever you play. And they have people come from everywhere to do this. They've got the little backstage gift store there, little unique gifts over there. I mean, this is just a cute little town. You see that little garage right there on the right? That white garage, there it is before. This is it after. They turned it into this really cool little gift shop. You could go there and have lunch over here at the Thorny Rose Cafe or at the Mercantile. When we were there, we stayed at the Country Inn. The Country Inn is a really, really nice B&B, and they serve breakfast there. And she is really well known for her pies. You can buy locally made crafts and gifts. I mean, it's just an amazing experience. You know, and even this used to be the hotel there. It's now going to be offices for them, for the Rosebud School. And then I want to show you one more little video. Let's say, I think it's coming up right here. I want to show you this.
say that every year?
I do? I thought you did.
Really?
Yeah. Look here.
So, let me tell you about this. And the reason, when I saw the summer theater at Frostfire, I said, man, maybe this could be more about performing arts than even skiing and mountain biking or the combination. But, you know, this is where Rosebud is. It's out in the prairie. It's all agricultural country. And the population of Rosebud hosts 35,000 visitors a year that buy tickets. They travel at least an hour and a quarter to come out there. Most of them spend the night. And the population of this town, 88. It just tells you it doesn't matter how small your community is, how small what you have, you could make something fantastic. And I love this sign, Rosebud. So many people come to the middle of nowhere that it becomes somewhere. When I saw Frostfire, I went, there you go. That is the potential that one of these places could have. And I just thought with that, I mean, I love that theater with the outdoors and everything. I mean, it just could be incredible. And so, I mean, just look at the reviews. 4.5, 5, it's got like 82% 5-star experience. And it's amazing what they do. So, back to our assessment, and we're going to get into Cavalier, and now we're talking about the country club. Once again, country club looks absolutely beautiful, but here's my question. Is it open for the public? No? Somebody? Yes. It is. Does it can you rent golf carts and clubs? Yeah. 9 or 18? 9 holes. Is there a pro shop? There must be if it rents gear. Okay, and do they do lessons? No. Okay, but here's the point. There's no signage of any kind that says it's open to the public. These are the little things for a couple $100 you could fix to increase revenues in your towns. Now, you locals may say, we don't want anybody else but us there, and that's why we don't want any sign there, and that's fine. But it's a beautiful course. I just thought, wow. And then, of course, the trail system, I showed this earlier, and, signs, just signs says this goes to town, it's 5.5 miles, whatever. Just tell us about it. Across the street, a fantastic museum, beautiful, and we got to go in this church, it was open, and they do a really good job. And with this museum, some of it is really good, and some of it could be just a little bit better. But we love stories. Like this plow, but this says breaking plows were used by settlers to prepare the sod for sowing their crops. And it says it was purchased by, and they can be purchased for about $24. I think that's a good story. People want to hear about what it was like to use this equipment, what it was like back in the day. And so like all these trucks here. And on one of these trucks was a little sign that says it's on loan, which is fine. It says purchased by, to haul wheat, barley, and oats from field to Cavalier. And it has about 35,000 actual miles on it. And John, I think his son, or John learned to drive this truck, and the reflection on it, when he was 7 years old. So they told the story of a little set, and I looked at the truck, I can't even imagine a 7-year-old in there driving a big stick shift, with about this much room, but it told the story. But I wish the story was on more of these, because this had little placards on all of them, but there's nothing written on them. And when we see farm equipment, I don't know when it was used. And by the way, when it comes to museums and historic, you got to avoid words like collections, artifacts, displays, donated by. We want to hear the actual story. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with those, but we want to hear the story. So a lot of times what happens is, in the case of Icelandic State Park, we came in and the QR code wouldn't work, and it took us to like a Denmark URL, didn't know why, but then so we finally went off the QR code, went to the state park, And then it says you got to find a park, so you have to go through the whole process. And so we thought it could and the first thing it says, Beaver Lake, Icelandic. And so we had to go through this whole thing just to register to come into the park and pay $7 or whatever it is. And so that was a little bit clumsy and we think could be fixed. But once we're in the park, it was fantastic. The trails are well marked. It tells you distances. It tells you capabilities. It tells you what you see. And I have no clue why it's here and it's not up at the Gorge. I don't know why they do a good job here and not there. And I just don't really know. But these are really well done. Just really well done. Here's that little passport station, which the only time I ever heard about it was over in Pembina at the museum. And you can take your passport and there's a little, you can actually rub it on that thing at the top with a pencil or something and get your passport. And there should be more information about that because we saw this and we had no clue what it was until we went there and they went, oh man, now we have to go back. And so it'd be good if there was a little more information about that. But overall, I mean, this is a stunning, stunning state park that would be the envy of any of the 50 states. I mean, it really, really is nice. I love the cairn here, the kids' information. The QR code on the bikes did not work either. We wanted to rent bikes and ride around the park on the bike, and the QR codes did not work. And so we don't know what's up. Somebody said in a meeting that it depends on what cell carrier you're with, and that shouldn't matter at all because it should be web driven. And it could be that, but for some reason we couldn't get QR code to work on those either. And there was no alternate way to rent bikes. We do see the theater here. It would be nice if there's like a reader board on the side that just says, we do interpretive talks during the summer, every other day at 10 a.m. I'm making up stuff. But there should be always a reader board that says during the summer months, this is when we do interpretive talks. Always an invitation to come back. And even down here, it was like, man, I'd love to rent one of those. And it says over there, kayaks available, rentals by the hour or day, contact park staff. There was no park staff to contact anywhere. I mean, we didn't know, well, how do you do that? Where do you go? And so we would have done that. We really wanted to do that. And remember, this is after Labor Day, and it was still in the 80s here. And so these are all things, and there was other people down there, but nobody knew how to do any of this stuff. And then, of course, we saw over here this, but there's no hours. I don't know when it's open. Maybe it's only open Memorial Day to Labor Day. And by the way, Memorial Day to Labor Day, that mindset for tourism ended 30 years ago. Boomers' peak months for travel are April, May, September, and October. And they spend the most amount of money. But on this, there was no hours or any information really other than some rules about the park. So we just thought it was a little bit frustrating considering how phenomenal this park is, that if we're not here during those 3 months, apparently, we don't know what you can rent or how to rent it or how to get bikes or how to register. And we had the same kind of experience down in Turtle River, so it's not something about Icelandic. But that was just a couple of little frustrations, but it is still an amazing experience. I mean, just the beautification out here is incredible. I don't know who does that, whether park staff does that. Who does? Is it garden club? Do you have a garden club? Volunteers. It's stunning. I mean, to us, that was like our first thing when we saw that was, wow. I mean, that's how important beautification is. We were just, this is one photo. I took like 10 photos saying, man, I wish our gardens would look like that. But just beautiful first impression. Just really, really great job. So thank you very much for doing that. It's just beautiful. Museum, great job. I mean, it's a great job. It tells good stories. And then, of course, we went around here and all these were locked because nobody told us that you could get a key. to go into them, which I think is a really cool thing that you're allowing people to do. And there's no interpretive signs, so there's no, you could walk, maybe there's information in some of the buildings you walk into, but there's no interpretive sign outside the buildings. So telling us how old the church is or what style it is or anything, there's just, so I'm not sure how you would get any information. Even like this, I don't know how old it is. I don't know if that's a hay baler or what. I don't even know what that is. Remember, you live here. We don't. What is it? A threshing machine. Okay, but there's no information about how old it is, how it was used, and I don't care who donated or stuff, and I don't even know how it was hauled around. Was it hauled around by tractors or horses? I don't know how old it is. Horses. So, and how many? Did it take a team of 6 horses, 4 horses, 1 horse, couple horses? See, this is all the information we're going, tell us more, and there's no information. Finally, the RV park is a little bit, now where was this at? The RV is a little bit underwhelming, but it could be listed. I think this was not here at Icelandic. Where was that at? Oh, okay, that's the other one, Cavalier. And so it was just like, oh, that's right, this was in Cavalier. There is a sign here. But it was like, yeah, it's okay, kind of a little bit crowded. We couldn't even fit our rig in there. We have a huge one. And so there was that. So now we've talked about quality of life. We talked about tourism. And what you have for tourism is phenomenal. You got to figure out, where can we stop to get apple pie? Where can we go to get the best lunch? Where can we go hike the best trail? And that's kind of what's missing. And every town needs an anchor tenant. An anchor tenant isn't one that drags you down. An anchor tenant is that one that says, we're going to go out of our way to eat there or go there. And I'm just going to tell you one more quick little story. This is Parowan, Utah. There's Salt Lake City. There's Las Vegas. If you're down by Cedar City on Interstate 15, if you go 1.5 miles off the highway, you'll be in Parowan. Population is about 3,000. And Parowan wanted to give people a stop. If you wanted to go skiing in Brian Head, you would come off of Interstate 15, you'd follow that yellow arrow there, you would turn left on their main street, and there is downtown, and then you would you would continue on to Brian Head. Their downtown's like 1.5 blocks long. And they're saying, how do we get people to stop? We got to just get people to stop. This is their downtown. And you can see on the right there, there's the Parowan Cafe. The Parowan Cafe is known for its cinnamon rolls. So I said, well, why don't you promote it? If it's known for its cinnamon rolls and they're as big as a plate and they're incredible, then why don't you be known for that? It could be your anchor tenant to get people to stop. And so they sat there and they worked with Katie Lister, who's the owner. She goes, yeah, help me make sure I have the best cinnamon rolls anywhere. And so they had tasting kinds. She tried them with strawberries and different cream cheese. And she tried all different kinds of cinnamon rolls till they came up with one that they thought would be the best ever. Because you have to have something different or something better that makes you worth the special trip. And so in this case, there it is. It's just a little cafe. And so they decided to promote the West's best cinnamon rolls. And they got KSL TV from Salt Lake City reporters to come down there, tried the cinnamon rolls, and on the air, he said, these are the best cinnamon rolls I've ever had in the Western United States. Got it. A third-party endorsement from somebody out of the air saying best cinnamon rolls in the West. And so then this is, there's a Mexican restaurant right here. And they said, well, if you're going to be about cinnamon rolls, we want to do something too. So Cavaliero's Family Restaurant created this. It is a cinnamon apple chimichanga. Man, and it's lunchtime. Oh. I mean, doesn't that look incredible? I mean, so everything they did, finding Parowan's sweet spot, everything they did is about cinnamon rolls. And then they put out billboards, yum, best cinnamon rolls in the West, next exit, turn right. They were hoping they could get one car They were hoping they could get 10 cars a day to stop for cinnamon rolls. And if they spent $20, maybe it was 10 cars a day, spending $20 would generate $6,000 a month for their town and for her little restaurant, or for any business they went in, like Cavalieros to get those. Well, what happened is they had 1,500 cars a day stopping. They were running out of cinnamon rolls at 8 in the morning. And so they had to kind of reboot. But they do events and everything around cinnamon rolls. Then there hadn't been a new business in their town in 20 years. This here is Dan Ortega. He is a Michelin-rated chef. He moved to Parowan just because he's a pastry chef, Papa D's Bakery and Coffee Shop. And I'm telling you, the stuff he does is world class. I mean, all of a sudden, new businesses, everything started popping up in their downtown because of cinnamon rolls. So what do you have? You have somebody that makes awesome barbecue ribs. Do you have somebody that makes really great hamburgers? Every town, give me something why I should stop in Walhalla or Cavalier or anywhere. I mean, look at that. Best in the West cinnamon rolls, chocolate chip, blueberry scones. I mean, everything. And so they did rat cards like this. Pretty soon, other businesses started. Look at this. Cavalier's Restaurant, Champ's Chicken, Parowan Cafe. All these places have some tie to cinnamon. In matter of fact, even their Chamber of Commerce sells cinnamon roll keychains. And I mean, it's just everything they do is about cinnamon rolls. So they have 4 to 6 places, but you could have only one. You know, vetted, award-winning, different recipes. They pair them with other foods and drinks. You can eat in, take out. They do an annual bake-off. They do ready-to-bake take-home rolls. They even have starter kits where you can just take home starter kits and make your own. I mean, everything. Pastry chef classes. They even have school kids learning about cinnamon rolls and baking with cinnamon, even in grade school. I mean, just so that it's throughout the community. A new bakery opened in town. I mean, other businesses are coming. It changed everything. So if we're going to promote things like Frostfire or Pembina Gorge or Icelandic State Park, give me a reason to go into Cavalier and where should I eat? And what do you have that makes that place special? And so that's going to bring us to commerce. And we start in Bathgate where we saw this place. Is it open? Is it operating? It is operating. But it kind of looks like it's open, but is it just a bar? Does it sell food? How would you know? How would you know? All I see is Grain Belt. I see Welcome Bikers. I see Budweiser. I don't know if it's the saloon. So these are things that business should just put aside. Number one, when's your hours? Where are your hours? It was closed when we were there in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. But maybe it's only open for dinners and evenings. I don't know if it's open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's no signs. When is it open?
It is closed Sunday and Monday, I know for sure. And I think their hours are later in the afternoon.
Okay. And so what they should do is add signage that just tells us that we're closed on weekends, we are open for dinner basically after lunch, right? You said they're not open for lunch period, right?
It's a small menu that he has.
Okay, well that's fine. But now, here's a question for you. Is there something on that menu that just stands out? What?
His pork wings.
There you go. So you say, if you come to Bathwing, you got Bathwing. If you stop in Bathgate, you got to go to, what's it called? Is it Jimmy's? Riney's. If you're coming up this way, you got to stop in Bathgate and you got to go to Riney's. He's open in the afternoons after 2 o'clock, except on weekends he's closed. And you got to try the pork wings. They're awesome. See what I mean? You just created an anchor tenant for Bathgate and a reason why we should stop there. That's what we want to promote. That's what we want the rendezvous reason, because we want, it's a him, right? We want him to succeed, don't you? And so if locals are just barely keeping afloat, wouldn't it be great if visitors coming through town, or even people working there during harvest, wouldn't it be great if they know that when you're there, and that doesn't mean all he's going to sell is pork wings, but if that's what puts him on the map and what he's well known for, put it out there. We need to know those from you. We need to know those things so that we can help these businesses grow and succeed. And so, because it looks like a nice place, but there wasn't even a word on it anywhere that said they serve food. We just thought it was a tavern. And so, onto Crystal. I mean, once again, we see all the, what happens is Budweiser and Miller and everybody gives you all these, you plaster your buildings with a bunch of banners, and so we assume that this is only a tavern. It does say right here, the Spud, eat, drink, enjoy. It was locked. I don't know when it's open. When's it open? So just in the evenings, and of course we're there in the middle of the day. But it's locked and there's no hours, there's no information. But once again, in Crystal, if this place, I could tell it's in business because they're doing some work on it. And it's got a bench outside, which is nice. But then there's no hours, but if they were known for something, just like we did in Bathgate, put it out there. Let's help these people succeed. Now this one right here, I would say is long gone and out of business. It does, but is it open? Is it in business? Here's my question for any of you. If you were not from this area, you were coming here, would you go in there? You basically all said no. This is the importance of curb appeal. Here's the statistic you need to know. 70% of first-time sales in restaurants, in taverns, at B&Bs, at these places, 70% comes from curb appeal. We all travel. Have you ever said these words? That looks like a nice place to eat. That doesn't. I love the cowboys, the cowgirl, whatever you got on the side there, but I don't know. And they did. They put out folding chairs out there, and they got a couple of tables. But the sign there should have been taken down 30 years ago. And it just looks, I thought for sure that this place had been closed for decades, even with the hours there. So if we're going to promote tourism, if we're going to bring people in your downtowns, they have to do your part. Even if you told us they were open and they had really good whatever, I don't know that we would have gone in there anyway. And this is what I don't understand. And this has been a problem in virtually every town outside of Grand Forks, is they just don't do a good job pulling people in the door. And so that's our assumption. I mean, this was at Crystal. I mean, why is that out there if you're not going to put anything on it? It's right by the highway. Put something on it. Come into town. Try our whatever. And so I just think that's a wasted opportunity. If we go to Drayton, Drayton, of course you saw this already. I would get rid of that or work with them. But then right here, Jack lives here. That's probably Jack Daniels. It's the Zoo something bar. You can't really read it. Zoo 2 bar. Is this in business? It is? It's open. It says, please use other door. I wouldn't want to walk in that door if that's it. I don't know where they're trying to lead us. But when you see weeds, you see no beautification. And in a lot of these towns, places aren't open. And this one, I was just going to say, now this place is obvious it's open. Hastings Landing, it says dining on it. But once again, could it be the anchor tenant for Drayton? I don't know. What does it serve? What's its dish? But at least that one looked better. Now, it is in kind of a strip mall metal building, but once again, it looks fairly new. The signs look good. This one here, all the windows are papered up. Did it go out of business? Because it's so cute. That's a great little place. I went, oh, that's too bad. But all the windows are all papered up. So And by the way, these places aren't even listed on TripAdvisor. I mean, it's like, even the basics need to be done. You know, so downtown has some great potential. In Drayton, I would narrow the street a little bit. I would do angle in parking instead of parallel parking. You know, but the streets are way too, you know, it drives me crazy when the streets in the middle of a downtown are wider than the highways that get you there. The reason that is because we're trying to push people through your downtown when congestion is the downtown's best friend. If you can slow people down, they will notice what you have to offer and are more likely to stop. And so when you have huge wide highways like this, I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, it's just, and by the way, we've got a couple of baskets right there. There's that logo I showed you earlier. We do have a couple of baskets right here. That looks really nice. And there's the logo, but the rest of this, look at how drab it is. I wouldn't know if anybody was in business in downtown Drayton. That is the power of curb appeal. You know, I would either widen the sidewalks way out or do angle-in parking instead of parallel parking. And by the way, angle-in parking increases retail sales by 20% over parallel. I mean, how many of you like parallel parking? Go ahead, raise your hands. Yeah, one. We got one guy. But we're now teaching cars how to parallel park themselves. But with angle-in parking, we go, oh, that looks like a cute place to eat. Let's stop. And you just pull right in. Or if you say, that looks like a nice place, but I don't know if it's worth the hassle of trying to parallel park. And so that's what I would do. I would do angle-in parking here or widen the sidewalks out just to narrow the street here so you're not blowing through downtown Drayton. You know, I would do a master development plan. I think the Riverview Market here, they do a good job. It says welcome. They got planter out there. It's obvious they're open. The signs look nice. So they do a good job. I mean, here, the lounge, I think they do a pretty good. It could be nice if they had a couple benches out front. But you could tell, and I'm pretty sure this is in business, right? It looks like it. Because you can tell the signs are nice. I love the outdoor cafe dining out there. If you just see that off to the right, the cool old signs. I thought they did a good job. Maybe that's Drayton's anchor tenant. We need to promote these businesses so they can be successful. Now, my question is, all the windows were plastered with posters selling beer. Does this place sell food? I imagine it would. It's called The Lounge. But is it open for lunch? Is it open for dinner? How would anybody know? No signs. So these are inexpensive things your businesses can do to pull more people in the door. Right across the street is the river, and I go, man, this could be a really cool waterfront plaza, you know, where we'd have activities and maybe something out into the river. I don't know. You know, the river may flood. I don't know. But I just kept going, man, you've got this water right here and nobody's taking advantage of it. You put parking lots on your view. And I just go, why are you doing that? I thought this was great. I think this is behind the market. They put a little bench there and got some beautification. I wish that was out on the highway so we'd see it. It would get us to slow down. And of course, you got a major employer there. I even thought if they had an interpretive center, I don't know how you make sugar. You know, we're staying at an RV park where one guy is a supervisor, and one comment he made to me, did you know that 85% of the sugar that we eat, that we consume here in the United States, comes from this area of North Dakota? Had no clue. Had no clue. And I went, wow, that's a powerful statistic. And he said, yeah, and he says it's not just made here, but it's also made in Minnesota. He would name 2 or 3 places. But I thought, man, it'd be cool if they had some kind of interpret center or even just sign that says, here's how we process this. Remember, we're not in agriculture, a lot of your visitors, but we're fascinated by it. And what you have is pretty cool. So Hensel, okay, so this here, is this a business? I'm not sure if it is. Okay, it's not. Okay, closed. Don't know, there's a little thing there, but I think that's closed. There it is. There, Hensel, that one doesn't even have a roof on it anymore. Probably needs to be torn down. So in Hensel, we didn't really see any place we could spend money. Am I right? Okay. And so in that case, what I would do is demolish the stuff and make it residential. Just little towns of 100 people are never going to succeed with with retail. You just don't have enough population, and we can't get enough visitors there to make it work. And so in those cases, you might just say, well, let's just tear all this stuff down. Let's homestead these lots for residential. We could even narrow the street down, run their properties out so it's not so wide there because it's kind of a commercial zone, and just reinvent it and just make it a residential community. So there's things you could do. In Mountain, Byron's Bar, is it open? Okay, it looks like it has a nice outdoor side cafe and everything, but and by the way, it does have its hours on it. But once again, we got one folding chair out there. Would you ever sit in that? And you got a 50-gallon oil drum for a trash can or a cigarette. I don't know what it is. And then you got weeds. And I'm just going, why don't you just put a bench flanked with pots? Just do something that makes it obvious you're in business. Because most of these, we couldn't tell. You know, but that looks awesome out there. I mean, I almost wish that was kind of a see-through fence so you could see back in there. I could see the hanging lights back there. It looks like a really cool place. Don't know anything about it. Couldn't find any information. They're not listed on TripAdvisor. They don't even claim their Google listing. The oil company, I imagine, is open. It's kind of a self-serve gas station. Am I guessing that right? Which I think is pretty cool. So I didn't have any problem with that one. I thought it was okay. Up back in Neche, let's talk about that. Western Bar. I think this is a really cool looking building. Is it in business?
Yes, it just started.
Oh, just started.
Again.
Okay, but once again, no hours. I don't know what they serve. I know it's a bar, so I'm assuming, do they sell some food, bar food, or is it a sports bar, or is it help us out? And that's what these businesses need to do. This is not expensive. And they may say, well, we only cater to locals. They know us. Well, that's fine. But if you're new, you might help us out. And what if we're coming through town? What if we decide we want to live here, you know, and we want to check you out? I think the building itself is really cool, but there's no information, nothing to pull me in. And I can't tell whether they're in business or not. I mean, Coda Bank here looks great. You know, I didn't have any problems with that. And of course, right here, I mean, they're open. You could tell, you know, we got gas, they got propane. So that was pretty obvious. And so I got to tell you one thing that I really learned while being here for a month is you would think that fuel would be cheaper in the urban areas. It's not. We buy all of our gas in your towns out here because it's more expensive in Grafton and Grand Forks by about 20 to 30 cents a gallon. I've never seen that before. So even that, say, if you want gas and you're in Grafton, you might want to head out to Park River or, you know, up here, wherever. I was just surprised that your fuel prices were way less out in the rural areas. And that's cool. So here, these buildings have some potential. ArtSpace is a national nonprofit based out of Minneapolis. They come into towns like this and they will buy these buildings, or they will have, a lot of times the city or redevelopment authority will buy them and then give them to ArtSpace, and they put artist live workspace in there. So they repopulate them with artisans, and they might have glass blowers and stuff. If that's something you're interested in. I thought these buildings, I'm pretty sure they're just empty. At least they look empty, but I thought, man, these are savable, you would think. And so, once again, that would be a great opportunity. In Pembina, I mean, the corner parcel pickup, it says it's open 7 days a week. Is this really in business? Does anybody know? I mean, all the windows, everything's boarded up. See what I mean? So if you don't make it obvious that you're in business, we're going to assume you're not. That looks like a new sign, but I don't know that I'd go in there, you know. And DK Grocery, now that looked nice. It has an open sign in the window. We did go there and it was locked, wasn't it, Jane? I think we did go there and tried to go in and it was locked and we didn't know why. But I'm assuming it's still in business. The Red Roost Motel, the sign, I think looks halfway decent. It said no vacancy every time we were in town. But, you know, there's somebody out there doing the cleaning, and it looked really nice. I mean, they do a nice job with that little motel. We want them to succeed. Give us a reason to spend the night in Pembina. And so those are the things we're looking for. Trails and Enterprises garage door sales. This, I don't know if, I think this is in business as I love their sign, Trails Inn Hardware Store. So that one looks nice. Notice the beautification? So you know they're in business. Looked like a great hardware store. While we're in Pembina, we saw Motor Coach Industries. I went, oh my gosh, I had no idea these came out of here. I had no idea. It was the one place we saw that wasn't advertising for new employees. Because everybody, go down to Marvin and all they're giving signing bonuses and everything. But here they weren't. And then somebody locally said that they believe that in the next 24 months they're going to lay off most of these people and they're moving it out of North Dakota. I don't know whether that was true, but I read it. It was on, it was online, so it had to be true. No, but that's what I read. And I went, wow, I hope not, because that's really cool what they do there. And it looked like a really great place. I mean, it was amazing what they do. I mean, we drove all around there going, wow, this is really cool. So I'm glad they're there. By the way, what I just told you, don't take that. That's something we read. We don't know that it's true. We read that. I hope it's not. I hope they're hiring. Yes, they should have signs out there that say so. It was one of the only big businesses we saw that didn't have any signs that said apply here. So. Okay, well, here's the problem. Try to find somebody under 40 that's going to read a local paper.
No, that's why they're going out of business.
Oh, they are. Are they going out of business?
The newspapers, yes.
Oh, the newspapers. I thought you were talking about them. Whew. Yes, newspapers are having a hard time. Now, some newspapers, and by the way, I'm not putting down any local paper. Local papers will be read by locals, and most of them have an online version. But when people are looking for jobs and things, they're not going to the local paper. They're going to Indeed.com and Monster.com and all those sites. That's how they're doing it. So anyway, or you put signs out there that says, I love Pembina, and it looks like they're hiring here. I should go in. But there was not even a sign anywhere on their building or any of their facilities. In St. Thomas, I just, once again, narrow the streets in your downtown if you can get grants for that. Buildings like these, I'm sure are all closed and out of business. But once again, I think there's some potential there. And if there's no potential there, then start raising these buildings or let people live in them. Restore them if they're restorable and have them live workspace. That's really common now with millennials and with even Gen Xers. Because a lot of these aren't going to come back. But see the little cafe on the right in St. Thomas? We knew it was open because there's always cars parked outside. That's how we knew it was open. If it wasn't for those cars out there, we wouldn't have known. But once again, it would have been nice if this sign looks awful. The nice sign you don't even see until you're driving past it. And so if I was them, I'd take that sign, double face it, put it there, and put cafe over there. But it's a nice building. It's got flower pots right outside the door. I think they do a good job. And maybe that's their anchor tenant. Now, Maddie's Bar, I have no clue. Is it open? See, a lot of these are open. I would have never guessed. It does have a couple of benches out there, but once again, when we put in our windows a bunch of Bud Light and those things, we just kind of think it's just a bar, and we don't know. Then I just thought the school's closed, right, in St. Thomas. I was in, what town was I in? Oh shoot, I was in one of your towns where somebody took a school and turned it into apartments. I can't remember which county it was in, but I just think right here would be a fantastic, there are developers who will take these and turn them into condominiums.
Webster did that.
Is it Webster, where's that?
Up by Devil's Lake.
Oh, okay, so they did that, yeah, and I saw one somewhere in these 4 counties also did that. And they look really cool, so that's a good opportunity, because that's a great building, it looks like. I'm not too sure what shape it's in or anything, but it looks awesome. I thought that would be a really good development project for somebody. Remember, you're really short on housing. Even if people want to live here, we can't find a house, to rent or buy. In Walhalla, there's the Walla Walla, or maybe it's just the Walla Theater, but it says Walla Walla, and I thought, wow, that's cool. That is right out of Walla Walla, Washington. But on the other hand, is this still operate? Doesn't look like it's operated for years.
Not as a movie theater.
What does it operate as?
It's
Oh. So I see they're raising money. I can see that right here. Here's where they're trying to raise money to do that, which I think is awesome. And they ought to put a sign there that says we are hoping to turn this theater into a performing arts or an event venue. If you'd like to contribute or help us, here's our website. These are all these things that people are saying, why don't you go the next level? Because that could be a real gem. So that's cool to know. I didn't have any idea on that. So I could see the fundraiser there. But then I kind of went, September 15th, what year was that? And I don't know. I loved it in Walhalla where they put, this is where we hold our farmers markets. That was a good sign. Even downtown, I think this is I don't know if is there a printing press still in there? No?
There is a press still in there, it does not work.
Okay.
And the owner is unknown.
Okay. But I thought, that could be a really cool house if somebody wanted to convert that to a house. And it's a really cool building. And I thought, don't let these things go away. And maybe, sometimes you have to say, we have to go to eminent domain. I don't know if they're current on their taxes. I don't know if it has, if there's asbestos in there or lead paint or anything, but there may be a way to turn that and turn it into something positive. I think it's a really cool building. And we love the potted plants out there, and we love right next door. Doing that was pretty cool. So, but Jackson's Bar, once again, I'm assuming this is in business, but there's not one shred of anything that gets you to want to walk in. I mean, it's a nice new building, but it's got a bench, and the bench, by the way, is broken, and it's got like the ashtray next to it, but I don't know it's a bar. Do they serve food? Yes. So these are the things that are missing in these towns. I just think it has really great potential. I think the Chamber of Commerce did a good job in Walhalla. You can see they got the decorations right there. And what's really cool about that I thought was really nice, is they actually, if you open up the screen door, there's visitor information. And so I thought that was cool. Coda Bank, I thought that was awesome, what they did there. And then I saw this and I went, oh my gosh, what if that was public restrooms, and what if you built a plaza around it? So let me just bear with me for a second. I saw that and I went, this could be kind of cool. Is that the grocery store? Yeah, okay, we went in the grocery store. And I thought, but if we could wrap all around that, get rid of that asphalt and put down paver stones, the little square bricks, paver stones around it. And I kept going, could we do that? Could we take this and all that orange you see there would be paver stones. So it's not asphalt anymore, it's all paver stones. And then what if we took and put a fence back there so we don't have people going to the grocery store, backing into people, because this would all be a plaza now. So we'd get rid of those parking spaces, and we would put some street trees down there. Maybe we'd put a stage over here in this corner. And we've got our fence back there. And then what we could do is add street trees around that. And then those things are like, Catalina umbrellas, like 9 feet across that you put over tables with 4 chairs and a table. So we'd have those so people could sit with lunch right in front of that stage. And then we could even add a few more there. And then inside, and then back there, those are like little vendor booths like you would have at a farmer's market. So you could have this programmed however you like. And in that building, it could be public restrooms. It could be, maybe you store some of these chairs if you're moving things around. You could make this, I just thought this could be a really cool little gathering place. Because I believe that every town should have a community living room. That black square that you came up, I just put there to signify about the size of a food truck. So maybe even have a couple of food trucks there for a weekend. But every downtown that has more than about 200 people should have a community living room, a place where locals can gather. And it should be in the spending district. If you had that there, how busy this grocery store would be? People going over there and buying lunches and sandwiches and drinks and then walking over to the plaza to have them. I think it'd be really cool. You could even add a couple more trees there, and I put some more tables there. How cool could that be? And that brings me to this one, and then I'll pretty much, I'm almost done. We did a whole thing on how to create plazas. But it's just a space in your town where people, locals, can gather. This isn't about tourism. This is about your locals creating a sense of community. If you want younger people, you need to have a sense of community. The primary ingredient is programming. That means having things going on there. It doesn't mean doing events. It just means programming. And so every downtown needs to have a space that could be their community living room. And this is all about activities, whether it's imagination playground. And so what you'd have is some things you could change out like every 2 weeks, twice a year. So that's imagination playground. You might have that out there for 2 weeks during spring break. You might put it 2 weeks during the summer. Then you might have different changes. So it's a space, it could be the size of this room that's just programmed with different activities all the time. And so you might have 13 different changes. I mean, they did this. They took out a couple of parking spaces in this town to do this. You can get these Jenga blocks for $79 on Amazon. But it's just creating a space that could change where people can come and hang out. And you know, even during you're probably not going to do it when it's 30 below zero, but you can even do it in the fall and winter months when it's a little cooler by doing these little propane pits. Think about the things you do at home and say, why can't we do that downtown? Like show movies, project movies on the side of a building or on an inflatable screen. But that's what this is about, having a place where people can just come and hang out. That creates a sense of community. And that's what people are looking for. Most of your downtowns are void of life. In the most part, you know, except when we go downtown to eat something in a restaurant. But you go downtown, almost every downtown we went into was like, nothing going on here. And it's because there's no obvious central gathering place where people can go to hang out. So there you go. You do that. You might have different sets. Consider weather and seasons. You mix and match activities. And I'm going to show you some more. You might even add a couple of security cameras. You know, get volunteers to assist you with it. I mean, there it is. And keep it well lit. You know, for instance, you could buy 4 chairs and a table for $162. So you have a local bank said, we're sponsoring 6 tables and chairs. So you don't even have to pay for it. You might have sponsors. You give them a sandwich board that says, this is sponsored by you know, a company. You know, an ag company, anybody. And then umbrellas for that are $39. I mean, you could even line your plaza before you get street trees with just like these. You just line it so cars don't get in that space. You know, and so these are all things you could do. And we have in that Destination Development Library, we've got all kinds of videos to tell you how to do it because I'm already way over my time here today. And so, but look at this. You could buy 6 of these, 4 to scores, for $1,250. So somebody say, I want to sponsor those. And I mean, these are just, and I'm not going to go through all these. Look at these mega chess sets. They're about 37-inch talls. They're $1,100 each, or you can get the smaller ones like this for $750. So maybe a local organization buys 2 of them. You say this activity is sponsored by so-and-so. And so these are all things you could do. You just need a space. I mean, heck, go downtown New York City. You'll see foosball tables in downtown New York City, even in the winter, ping pong tables. They have them all over the place because they're trying to make it into a community living room. I mean, so these are all just some ideas. Even hula hoops. You could do that for less than $1,000. You'd have 48 hula hoops and you'd even have racks for them. I mean, it's just about, those are spun chairs. You need a little bit more room for those, but they're pretty cool. And so, I mean, even here, musical instruments. So this will be all available for you. But here's musical instruments, how you can buy them. And they're just out there year round. You can even buy a few of these little things that let local merchants, even some of your restaurants say, we want to rent one of those and we're going to sell hors d'oeuvres or ribs or whatever out of them. And so a great place to be a business incubator. This is a portable skate park for your youth. You know, and I can keep going. There's the cornhole tosses. So all of these things you could get for a song, and then just, there's badminton. I mean, and I was working in Canmore, Alberta. So this is right near the Rocky Mountains. And they have their exercise equipment out there year round. And they're out there with their ski gear and everything because these people are really athletic and they're skiers. And so they're using this stuff year round, outdoors. And so these are all the things that you could do that just make, I love Imagination Playground. I was one place where I first saw those. It was in St. George, Utah, and they had a bunch of those, and it was like, get out of the way, kid, I want to play with those. I actually didn't do that, but I was tempted. But these are all the things you could do. And by the way, everything I just showed you, if you were to buy all of it, just all of it, everything there, everything, all the tables, the chairs, everything, it'd be $76,000. Now, the governor's making Main Street his number one priority. This is a key ingredient to Main Street. And if I don't know what's going to happen with the big federal stimulus bill, $3.5 trillion, and whatever you think about it, there's going to be a ton of money for stuff like this. So there's an opportunity for you to do things like this in a downtown and make it great. And by that grocery store, they may say, we want to sponsor some of that because we're going to be the biggest beneficiary. I mean, that's how cool this is. You know, and so, and now here, this one, is this out of business?
It's open.
I mean, this here is separate, right? Oh, because I see this. See, we didn't know. Didn't know, it's not clear at all. And then blade signs. Blade signs are signs that are perpendicular. Tell me why I should walk down that sidewalk. I don't see any blade signs. And these are blade signs. Blade signs are perpendicular to us when we drive down a street, walk down a street. And they should be very simple. Chocolate, collectibles, trains, restaurant. Always put what you're selling before the name of the store. But we didn't see any blade signs. I mean, this is in Nantucket. They don't all have to be cookie cutter, but generally that's about the height and size you'd want to use. But we didn't see blade signs hardly in any of your towns. Every once in a while we'd see one. But that's those. Always put signs so when we're walking or driving down the street, we know what it is you're selling or what you have to offer. I mean, that's in Valparaiso, Indiana. Those are a little bigger because it's a bigger scale downtown. But this is back in Canmore, Alberta. See those? Those are really cool. And pretty inexpensive. And by the way, these are in Lethbridge, Alberta. These are built to 100-mile-an-hour wind loads. So you can't say, well, we don't allow blade signs because of the wind. Well, they do make them that can withstand that. But all of these, that's in Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia. But there's your general rule for blade signs. You know, and even like they're under awnings. Gifts, bridal home, clothing boutique. And I just didn't see that in any of your towns. And there's even a video for you to see about that. And then as we keep going, we're in Walhalla here, right? Yeah, and so I thought there's an art gallery there. It's got the beautification, right? That's a chamber, right? But it says Walhalla Area Chamber of Commerce, and then we've got gallery and gifts in there. But I think they did a good job. And by the way, if you do open the screen door, there you go. You've got brochures right there. Visitor information should be working around the clock, and in their case it does. And I thought what they did here was really cool. Really cute little, taking a space and turning it into a little garden, I thought was awesome. So with that, Highway 32 Diner looks really cute. Didn't make it, right? It's closed, permanently closed. Yeah, okay. And so we saw that. The Walhalla Inn is the place we ate that I told you. We walked in and we said, wow, we just stepped back in time 50 years to 1974 or so. And the people in there were nice, but it was a little bit confusing where you go in. And so my last one, Cavalier. Here we go. Cavalier's downtown is perfect. It's got a fairly narrow main street, so to speak, and it's got angle in parking, which is perfect. It's very nice. We did see the gazebo over there. I think that looked really nice. It gave you kind of a nice impression, a bookend down the street. I mean, there's the antlers and stuff we saw people putting out. I just thought this is awesome. It's a way to take, once your growing season is over, and make downtown look inviting. Love the little flags there. I saw this whole thing here. I thought, man, that'd be a cool little plaza with some tables and chairs or anything out there just to get attention. But overall, I think Cavalier does a fantastic job. I do see a lot of piled up stuff over there. It's going, why don't we get rid of that? I don't know if somebody sat in this bench. I think if anybody sat in it, it would fall right down. So there's a few things that could be cleaned up, but generally speaking, really nice. And I really thought that Cavalier was kind of the showcase of the county. And granted, it's the biggest town, isn't it, in the county? And so that certainly helps. But, the Blue Fox, I love the little sandwich board right there. We'd love to see you. Come on in. I thought it was excellent. I would love to see a bench out there. They got one on the other side, or a little table and chairs. Let me show you an example of that. Now, this here, I have no idea what this is. Is it in business, or is it just a bunch of window displays? It is in business? What is it?
Well, the E-Mart is up above.
The what is?
The E-Mart is a men's clothing store.
There's a men's clothing store in here? How would anybody know?
Guns.
Okay. And what's down below? What's all this?
They're just redoing it, so I don't think they have time.
Okay. See, there's no signs. I would have never known in a million years there was a men's clothing store in there. No signs, no anything. I like the guy right there standing there, and I think it looks nice. I think the window displays are nice, but we could not figure out what it was or if it was in business. Your merchants are their own worst enemy. And sometimes I have to be the heavy to come in and tell them that, but there's nothing that invites me. And once again, we could use blade signs. I loved, we ate at Thompson's. So that is the one place we did eat when we were in Cavalier. But once again, these kinds of signs went away in the 70s. These backlit Coca-Cola and Budweiser signs. It just makes you look very, very dated. And so I think Thompson's Cafe, it would be nice if there's a couple of tables, chairs, or benches out there. The sign on the side of the building is fantastic. That's gorgeous. And it's great because it says homemade pizza, roasted chicken, ice cold beer, steak, and catering. I thought it was absolutely great. That's a fantastic sign. I would love to see that double-faced where that is. And then put little LED lights on the facade up there shining on that sign. But that sign is what made us go in. This sign did nothing for us. And so we went in there. Now, and by the way, we had a good meal. But one thing there's a couple things I would change. Number one, you're like eating in a Safeway store. It's just fluorescent lighting. It's not dimmed. It's just like, man, you can even buy these shades that you can put over fluorescent lights so that it just gives you ambient lighting, but you're not sitting there, just in stark, bright white. And then the floors everywhere were just stained. It was, so the feeling in there, the ambience isn't very good. The service was excellent. The food was good. Everything else about it was fine. But for us, it was like, oh, come on, without much money, you could make this into a much nicer ambience without all those lights on. You could do like every other one, or put those fluorescent covers on them that gets the light to come out and around. And then the stained floors wouldn't be quite so obvious. But one thing we really loved was this. Daryl, Kelly, Andrew, Kelsey, Thompson. When you bring it down to the level that this is a family-run organization like this, where we even know who the people's names are, we just said, I love this place now. I love this place. This is a family operation doing the very best they can in a small town in North Dakota. I want to eat here as often as I can. Just because they did that on their menus. That's how cool that is. And so I thought that was really nice that they did that. And they even gave you a way to email them if you wanted. And then it says, art by our grandchildren and their names. And I just how can you not love a place like that? That is so cool. So, I just think that's just incredible. Now, one thing I will say is we saw pictures of Cavalier before we came here. And the picture was way, way down below, so that you see that. Then when we came here, we saw, well, it's a little rougher than it looked in the pictures you're selling us. And so, but I think this theater could be amazing. And I'm not sure, it doesn't look like it's operating. It's not. Is this one that's you're trying to save, or what's its fate? We're working on it, okay. But what happens is, when you know the photo I'm talking about, and I thought, man, Cavalier, we got to go there. But then we got here and we said, well, the picture was better than what we actually saw. And you don't want to oversell something. But I still think this has some good potential. I mean, I don't know what it's like inside, but it was tough to see. It's like, oh, no. You know, but it has some potential. So anyway, now, a couple of things. Women account for 80% of all consumer spending. I'm waiting. There's usually a guy in the audience that says, that's all. But that's absolutely true. The reason I mention that is because I want you to take a look at this next photo, which was not staged. What do you see?
Sitting on the bus.
The men waiting for their wives to do the shopping. Every downtown, I have 2 words for you. Think benches. So there's Jane being a model. Think benches. Your downtown, in downtown Cavalier, all your downtowns, you should have benches everywhere. And they should be flanked with pots or planters like you see here, even in the winter months. Because women, who count for most of the spending, they want to feel safe, they want it well lit, they want some life, and they want people there. But beautification is key. This is why people may never sit in those chairs, but you know why they put them on their front porch? It makes their home feel welcoming. It's the same with retail. And that's what you have to know. And then one of the last things is this, you could even do this. If you don't have a downtown association or anything, you could even do what they did in Fredericksburg, Texas. They had a merchant decided he wanted to put by the way, cities should do the curbside beautifications. Merchants and property owners should do the facade side beautification. That's public-private. In their case, he went down the street and went to every merchant and said, would you donate some money? I want to line our facades with beautification. And somebody donated $5, somebody donated $200. The average was about $40. They raised about $3,500. They went over to a wholesale nursery, like in October, and said, look, we'll take all the pots you got left over, as long as they're 20 inches or bigger opening. We didn't want little tiny ones. And it doesn't matter whether they have a hairline crack, or whether they were set and one broke, or if they have a chip in the top. We'll take everything you got that you want to get rid of for pennies on the dollar. So then they got a flatbed truck. They brought them to Fredericksburg. They put them on a side street and said, merchants, help yourself. They didn't say, you only paid $5, you only get one. They said, just help yourself. So you can tell that this merchant right here grabbed these that look pretty similar. This merchant grabbed these 3 right here. This merchant grabbed these. I mean, and they lined up the whole street with these. This merchant, she grabbed those 2. And then what they did is they brought in a load of round rock. And then they brought in a load of topsoil, dumped it on a side street, and they paid their youth organization, like band, cheerleaders, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, any youth organization that was raising money, and said, we want you to come in, put rock in the bottom of every one of these, put a piece of landscape fabric over it, and then fill them full of that topsoil. And guess what? They never had a case of vandalism, because kids protect things they take ownership of. And they took ownership. And then what they did that winter is they just filled them full of pinwheels. And then in the spring, they went and got evergreens, mainly evergreens. And we've seen this done in northern communities. Don't tell me about snow removal. You guys always use the winter excuse. We can't look pretty because you don't know what our winters are like. Stop it already. And so we've seen this work in other areas. But you can see there was a grouping there. Look at that. A blade sign and that grouping. Doesn't make you want to walk in? I don't know why beautification is so difficult in this area of North Dakota. It doesn't have to be. Just to tell you the power of it, this is in Neenah, Wisconsin. Notice this, the city did their street side. You can see street trees. Look at the facade. Before, after. Their retail sales went up 35% just doing that. Going from that to that. 35% increase. I mean, this isn't rocket science. And so I think this is great what they did right there. I would just like to see more of it. I'd like to see one on each side of the bench. I'd love to see it go down the street. You know, I think this is fantastic what they do. And hopefully they do this. Of course, this is the season for mums, but maybe they do it with other things. You know, but I even love the little stand they bring out there. I think they did a great job. And so with this, the Blue Fox, there should be a little table and chairs out there. Great sign, by the way. By the way, I wouldn't put phone numbers. People aren't going to call you. I already said it once. We text people. We don't even call them. And so I don't think you really need the phone number there. I would put a URL there, if anything else, your website address, instead of the phone number. Same here with Main Street Floral. So I want to show you this. This is Laverne, Minnesota. It's the western side of near Sioux Falls. And in this little town, this is out in front of a restaurant. They're not even using it. Notice the chairs are stacked up, but it still looks nice. But what they did that I want to show you, look at that. That's out in front of a little retail shop. Because Laverne gets some snow, they did little hanging window baskets. And then they just put out the little slider rocker right there. I mean, it just makes your place look inviting. Notice the blade signs. I mean, notice this. Look, there's a table, a chair, and a pot. You know, look at right down there. I mean, just look at these. It's not hard to do. And at night, you know, they haven't had any cases of vandalism, but at night they might even take the chairs in and the table in. They leave the pots out there, of course. But I don't know why your businesses can't do this. These are not even restaurants. They're just doing it to make it says, you're welcome. And it tells us you're open and in business. And so even little things like this, I mean, this is inexpensive to do. But I had a real hard time. We had a horrible hard time figuring out who's in business, who's not. You don't know how many times we walk up to a door and it's locked. You know, or we walk up to a door and it opens and go, oh, it is in business. You know, and most people won't do that. And so I just think this is not expensive to do. You know, there's places like this. We assume this is long gone. Is it? It says dining lounge, but our thing is this is long gone and out of business. We made our judgment on that. I mean, for them, it'd be better just to cut this off, get rid of it, because you're doing your business a disservice. And because we thought it looked nice up there, but there is a lot of weeds. But then when we saw that, we went, gone, long gone. I don't know how many times, I could keep showing you pictures and stuff, but I think you get it by now. I mean, I thought this was a great job. I'd love to see benches, pots out there just to show us. And I'm assuming that is in business. Okay, so one thing that's really cool is Cavalier. I found Cavalier has this program that is a business growth program that has these kinds of things, which I think is fantastic. I wish other towns would do this. I think that all these things I showed you, like beautifying storefronts, could come out of these grants. Am I right, Kelly? They can come out of this grants. We're showing you, here's what you could do to make more money in your businesses. The city can't do it. When I hear merchants go to the city and say, what are you doing for me lately? I go, wait a second, what are you doing for yourself? A business, the city can lead a horse to water, but they can't make them drink. You have to do that as businesses. I think their program of having these things is exceptional. I wish other towns would do that. You know, the ones that, even if you get grants to do or you work with local banks, I just think this is exceptional. This is the age of economic gardening. That means we help small businesses grow, whether they're just a restaurant, whether they're a little bakery, whether they manufacture something. And I just think that's the future. We are a country on the move. We're now looking, people are looking to move to places like North Dakota. If we can show them why it's great. Look at what Morgantown, they'll give you $12,000 plus outdoor rental gear if you just move there. $12,000 bucks. And they'll give you $10,000 the first year, paid every month, and they'll give you a $2,000 bonus at the end of the second year if you stay there for 2 years. And it's funded by a $25 million grant from a foundation, from the founders of Intuit. But let me go, Tulsa, Oklahoma, $10,000 up front if you say you're going to work there, plus they'll give you a co-working space. I mean, move there within the year. You know, look up TulsaRemote.com if you want to find out more. This is what cities are doing. Topeka, Kansas, they'll give you $15,000 to move there. And they'll give you a $1,000 bonus from Jimmy John's, all the sandwiches you could eat for, I don't know how much, $1,000 will buy. But rent or buy a home there within a year, and then you go to ChooseTopeka.com to find it. And so, Northwest Arkansas, $10,000 plus they give you a bike. You know, move there within 6 months and look it up. You can look it up there, finding Northwest Arkansas. Here's the problem. North Dakota doesn't have these programs, and places like Cavalier can't afford them. So Cavalier has some great programs that will help you once you establish a business, because most cities can't afford to pay $10,000 for you just to move there. Newton, Iowa. Look at, if you buy a home there, they'll give you $5,000 to $10,000 just to build a home or buy a home there. And so this just keeps going on and on and on. I mean, all these cities, you know, all of these places are paying people to move there. I don't think you have to do it, but I think doing programs like what Cavalier's doing and things that we're going to provide you could make the difference. So finally, I just want to spend about 5 minutes on marketing, and then you could go home. You're probably all hungry like we are. And for some of you, you'll have some food. But create, one thing we want you to do for the Rendezvous region, create an RVer's guide. I mean, heck, we're staying in Grafton. We have like, where can I even buy propane? Where can I, you know, I think you need an RVer's guide. That would help everybody out. That's one. Number two, I think this whole 4-county region should be marketed with pick your season, pick your passion. Winter, spring, summer, fall. You guys like dread the winter, it seems like. I think you should embrace it. I mean, granted, you're going to, I know somebody's going to tell me, well, you haven't been here in January. You try to embrace it then. I can hear it now. But, and then you do it. And then underneath, you put the months. You know, winter is September through May. And then we have June, July, and August, right? Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, here it is. There, is that better? There we go. There we go. Okay. I couldn't help that. And so I just think this tells us that you're open year-round. And then if we say we're coming in the winter, then you would say, okay, pick your passion. Are you into ice fishing, snowboarding, downhill skiing, holiday happenings, fat tire biking? What do you want? What's your passion? I think you could do that. I think you could build tourism here. You have it. You have what you need to do it. We just need to know if they're even open. And then if you pick one of those top 3 ice fishing spots, I don't know if these are the top 3. I just put in placeholders like Stump Lake or Larimore Dam or Red River, wherever. But that's how we want to market it. It says we're open year-round, and pick your season you want to come, and then we'll tell you what we've got available, and you pick your passion. And if you do that, you'll win. I would love to see the top 3 hiking trails, top 3 golf courses, top 3. When we use the internet, that's what we're looking for. Where's the best golf courses, the best this, that? And then you can always say, if you like these top 3 bird hunting destinations, go to our website. We've got 3 more for you, or 6 more for you, whatever it is. And we want you to create a rendezvous history trail, which is museums. We'd love it if these museums, the only 2 museums were open that when we were here over 3 weeks were these 2. This one and across the way. And I kept going, all these other museums are closed, but if they were open, like, say, we're open the 1st and 3rd Saturday from 10 to 5, then at least we could, if they had consistent hours, we could do a history trail. It says go here, 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 and the best time to do it is on Saturdays, because that's when everybody will be open. But right now, most of them, we don't know if they're ever going to be open. And there's no information. You can even do an antiques trail, whatever you want. You could do a brew house trail if you wanted. And then when you market them, we want to create brochures like this, where you actually, they did this near St. George, Utah, or near Springdale, Utah. And they actually put every trail, and they gave it smile ratings. so that it was actually helpful information, you know, and it would tell you, here's your amenities on the trail, here's our ratings, here's the difficulty level, the elevation gain or loss, average hiking time, distance, you know, trailhead location, all this information. And I think, and what we'll see along the trail would be fantastic. And then finally, what we want to do is if we're going to get people out of Minneapolis, out of Fargo, out of Grand Forks, or out of, heck, Langdon, anywhere, if we're going to get people to come here, where can we gas up? Where can we pick up some supplies? Where can I get a fishing license and fishing gear in any of your small towns? Where to have lunch or dinner? And then where to stay? I mean, if we could do this, what else is there to do while we're here? If you do this, it could be, we could promote specific business. That's what we're trying to do. Help your existing businesses do better, because success breeds success. And with that, here's the last assignment for you. There is a survey up there. If you want, photograph this. Take your phone out and photograph. If you go to bit.ly/weighinnow, there is an online survey. And we're going to promote this like crazy. We want to know what you want to do in your community. It will ask, and we don't mind having you send this to your friends and other people outside there. We want to know what you think and where you want to go. In this questionnaire, it's just an online questionnaire, and it's not a survey, it's a questionnaire, and we want to know, what do you think your 3 greatest assets are? What do you think your 3 greatest challenges are? If there was one thing we could bring to your town, what would it be? It asks those kinds of basic questions. And we want you to tell everyone you know to go online and do this, I mean, it only take a few minutes. There's 10 questions, and they're simple questions. And if you do that, this will help us because we're trying to help you. Do you want to see people living in your community? Do you want to increase your population? Do you want to have more retail? What do you want? I mean, the Red River region and the counties, all of you belong in incorporated cities for the most part. And you have incorporated cities because you wanted self-governing, you wanted home rule. Well, let the Red River Regional Council and the Rendezvous region help you out, but we don't know where you stand, what you're looking for. This was just the assessment with suggestions. And so we have to say, where do we go from here? And so, you know, do you want to be part of this? If so, you could create a little team of doers in every town. I don't care whether it's Bathgate or Walhalla or Cavalier, any of your towns, create a little team of doers. It could be 2 people. And then we're going to give you all these suggestions. We're going to give you all of them. There's like 170 of them, but a lot of them you say, well, this doesn't apply to this one does. You could go through and say, we want to work on these 3. A lot of this is educating your local businesses on what they could do to increase their revenues without spending for it. There was nothing expensive in this whole presentation. I didn't put one thing that was inexpensive, except I put in there, it'd be nice if you could widen the sidewalks. Well, you know what? You could do that with paint. That's what they did in New York City. They just painted and they had the parking beyond the painted areas. And so let us know what we can prioritize for you. Because amazing people don't just happen. And you're here. You're spending half a day here, more than you thought you were going to spend. And I got to tell you that we need to hear people in tourism, which is restaurants, retail, anybody that's in commerce, downtown chambers, economic, these all represent the private sector. That's where jobs are. We need people to move to North Dakota. You've got thousands and thousands of jobs available, and you have an exceptional quality of life. But if we come to check it out, your businesses aren't doing much to close the sale. And your houses, your residentials, they do. But when you create this team, it might include all these people, you name it. I mean, somebody. It includes these people to sit down and figure out, okay, what do we want to do? Where do we want to go? There's a ton of federal money out there already, and they're trying to dump trillions more out here into the economy. You know, and I don't care how you feel about it. If it's there, you might as well take advantage of it. Somebody is. And I think there's great opportunities. And far more powerful is one loud voice, locally by county and by region, than separate small little voices. You know, I call this the economic development express. They're really clipping along there, aren't they? When you do this, you create that little team I was telling you about and say, let's do some of these things that Roger talked about. Or you may email me. Anybody's welcome. If you want, I can give you a card. You can email and say, well, Roger, why didn't you cover this or that? Maybe there's something we missed. But when we get everybody on the same page, pulling the same direction, you will go from this to that. And notice, that's the color of money. Everything I do is about how do we monetize it? How do we monetize it? I came from tourism, but I don't like tourism if I can't monetize it. It's just more people using our stuff and not giving us anything in return. But you know what? You know what happens in these 4 counties? You have tremendous leakage. I mean, we've been here for a month. Guess what? We go to Grand Forks just like you do. We know 32nd on Grand Forks just like you do. The big Walmart, the big Target, all of that stuff down there. That's all leakage. Tourism is a quick way to fill in the money that you leak out of where you live. And so that's what this is all about. I think what you have here is absolutely fantastic. And that was my very last slide. Whew. So